The freshmen line up before the massive goddess statue, waiting for a sign. Fire, water, wind, or earth. The teacher recites the legend of Gaia gifting magic to the weak, and the hall fills with pure hope. One after another, students awaken. Neil even pulls 2 elements, stuns the crowd, and the nobles go wild cheering. Then all eyes turn to Louis, our main character, but nothing happens. Inside his head, an unseen force is squeezing his soul like heavy iron chains. He lets out a roar, breaks the binds, and 4 colors surge. But every time he reaches out, the power slips through his fingers. The teacher just smirks. He's certain the confinement circle and the forbidden orb hidden under the tile will crush Louis in silence. But Kara senses the trap. Louis smashes the tile, exposing the orb, and a 4-color vortex explodes. Even the principal is shaken. This isn't just magic, it's something ancient. And then, the power finally bursts. Frost and gales erupt, turning the entire temple into a frozen wasteland. So, how'd we get here? It all started outside the prestigious Candria Arcanist Academy that morning. Louis isn't surprised by the crowd. This is the Empire's top school, after all. Suddenly, someone screams out his name. He turns to see his parents panting from exhaustion and complaining that he left them in the dust. His mother, Laciella, is worried. She double-checks his ID and reminds him to keep his hair hidden. He laughs it off, showing he's got his dye ready. But she's still terrified. These exams can be lethal, and his hair makes him a target. Being different is dangerous in this world. His father, Julian, steps in. Only magic can solve the curse Louis carries. He reminds them of one thing. This academy is the only place in the Empire where commoners can actually take the exam. This place is the crown jewel of the entire Empire. It was built by royalty and serves as one of the elite schools where legendary grandmasters teach the next generation. Many graduates from this school have become legendary guardians over the last 10 years. Even students who didn't come from noble backgrounds. It's the perfect chance. Julian knows this is the perfect place for Louis to finally master his magic. Louis agrees. He's determined to become a grandmaster no matter what. He needs the title to save his orphanage. Laciella is floored. She breaks down crying, calling herself a terrible mother for making him worry about the home and not being able to stop his rampages. Julian comforts her, reminding her she's a hero for taking care of all those kids. And Louis thanks her for being the reason he's alive. See, before this, he always dreamed of becoming the world's greatest warrior. But severe asthma kept him bedridden. His own parents resented the medical bills. Yet his love for fighting never faded. He mastered the theories of martial arts instead. His life's work completely revolutionized the fighting world and sparked a legendary, global martial arts revival. But everything fell apart when a jealous scholar stole his research and then branded him a common thief. Despite being a fragile, bedridden man, incapable of pulling off any crime. His own parents abandoned him and literally pulled the plug on him. In those final moments, Louis prayed for a healthy body and a family's love in his next life. He yearned for a second chance before the darkness finally took him. In the year 90 of the Saint calendar, he awoke in the town of Manhwa. The first thing he saw was Laciella looking worried about the boy's strange, dual-colored hair and eyes. As he tried to make sense of things, Laciella feared this mysterious child might bring a curse upon their home. But she could not just leave him behind. He was innocent, so she held him close. Naming him Louis, she became his mother. He felt peaceful. His dreams of a healthy body and a loving family had finally both come true. Now, back in the present, a random student calls Laciella a commoner while shoving her to the ground. Julian and Louis are both shocked and concerned. They both immediately rush to help her up. But the bully keeps talking trash about how Louis is delusional for wanting to be a grandmaster when he is just some low-born peasant kid. This pushes Louis over the edge. When the insults continue, he stands up with vengeance in his eyes and gets ready to fight them all. But Julian stops his fist. He tells him to stay calm and focus on the entrance exam for now. Laciella then reminds him of his promise not to cause any trouble. This leaves him feeling completely and utterly speechless. Swallowing his pride, he apologizes to his mom for nearly losing his cool, which only makes the nobles scoff. They walk off to grab their numbers for the test. As they walk away, knights order everyone to make way. The famous Lord Kane is coming through the crowd now. Out steps Kane, the shining heir of the Oranka family. And the entire crowd is instantly mesmerized by his stunning and radiant appearance. Louis glares at the bully and Kane. He swears to himself that he will show these nobles exactly who is boss. As Laciella feels uneasy again, he holds her hand and promises her that he will definitely pass the entrance exam. He takes it further, loudly declaring his path to become a grandmaster. That bold claim makes even Kane take notice. As the bullies keep mocking him, Louis runs forward and swears that in this second life of his, he will become the strongest and protect his new family. Watching him go, Laciella asks Julian if Louis will be okay. Only 20 to 30 pass each year, but this time there are 20,000 applicants. Julian smiles. He is not worried because Louis is the most stubborn person they know. Once he sets a goal for himself, he charges ahead without a single care for critics. He tells her they just need to support him as a family, and she nods in agreement. Inside the hall, Louis looks around and realizes every other candidate is way older than him. Right then, the academy principal, Aronian, steps forward and officially announces that the entrance exam has now begun. As the officials gather, Louis thinks back to how this world ranks its elite arcane martial arts masters. These powerful martial arcanists are divided into 6 distinct tiers of pure combat power, with the legendary saints at the top. It follows the order of sage, grandmaster, master, fighter, and finally, apprentice. Since the grandmaster is third from the top, they are the world's elite class. Principal Aronian tells the group that the first trial is climbing stairs guarded by their seniors. He mentions that the coveted exam passes are waiting right behind them. 1,000 passes exist in total, and only those who grab one move to the next round. Finally, he reveals that the exam ends once the passes are gone, and with that begin. Some students actually think this test will be easy. They charge at a senior, but he unleashed a terrifying aura while welcoming them to living hell. He releases a massive magical force field that brings them to a dead stop. After it knocks them cold, the announcement comes, they are all disqualified. While everyone tries to process what just happened, 2 students identify the senior as Lord Sheath, the finance minister's son and former top scorer. He was the number 1 student during last year's exam. Suddenly, Louis steps forward, explaining that Sheath is just using his aura to intimidate them. If your will is weak, you will obviously faint. As Louis stands directly before Sheath, the senior praises him for having backbone. But he claims there is no room for commoners here, which makes Louis angry. He vows to make Louis kneel and releases a massive aura wave that has others coughing up their guts. However, Louis stands completely unfazed, confident in his abilities thanks to all the training he has endured. When Sheath fires a magic blast, Louis dodges and charges forward with a clenched fist. The other examinees watch with their jaws literally dropping to the floor. Louis scares Sheath with a perfectly timed feint, leaving everyone wondering how he did it without magic. As Louis reaches out to collect his pass, Sheath tries to punch him, but Louis blocks it with his own hardened fist. He is shocked that a commoner just countered his attack without using magic. Principal Aronian stops Sheath from attacking, reminding him that the academy treats all students as equals regardless of status. As the students bow in submission to him, he congratulates Louis for passing, but then points out that his hair color is a bit concerning. Louis is absolutely stunned. When Aronian questions if his eye color is unusual too, Louis quickly shifts them to gray for the man. However, his tricks do not fool the principal. He promises to prepare a special potion to hide those unique traits if he is admitted. Louis feels Aronian might be plotting something, but his first priority is simply passing this exam. So, he tells the principal he is going to prepare for the second test. As he walks away, Sheath can only stare at him with pure rage. He wonders why the principal intervened for the first time just to protect a mere commoner like that. Boiling with anger, he swears he will never forget the name Louis. Much later, the survivors of the first round arrive at the Academy's second training ground to wait for the next trial. As Louis watches the others chat, you can see his focus. He notices that most of the 10,000 remaining students are nobles who received elite training. There are almost no other commoners left. Just then, Sheath shoulder checks him while passing by with his group of goons. He warns Louis that no one's saving him next time. You and I know he's in for it. Louis doesn't even blink. But when Sheath's lackey claims he only survived because of the principal, Louis smirks and calls them total idiots. Sheath's glare is pure venom. Louis tells them straight, the Grandmaster obviously has better judgment than a few losers. That's it, Sheath snaps and threatens to knock him out, but Louis just keeps rage-baiting him with that smug, casual smile. Fuming, Sheath throws a punch, but Louis shuts it down instantly with a two-finger martial arts move. Suddenly, Sheath realizes he can't move a single muscle. Louis reveals the move is called Meridian Severance and sends his opponent flying using a combat technique called Spiral Point Strike, leaving both of his lackeys standing there in absolute shock. The sound of Sheath hitting the floor echoes through the room, drawing every single eye in the place. He's down there just gasping for air. His friends rush over to help. He panics, claiming he can't feel his arm at all, and swears he's reporting Louis for using some kind of poison. Though, Louis denies it, claiming it was pure martial arts. His mom told him to hold back, but these guys really pushed him way too far. He steps forward to finish the job. He drops some truth. The only ones allowed to hit are those ready to get hit back. But Kane steps in, reminding him that a disqualification isn't worth it in the middle of an exam. As Louis heads off, Sheath's goons start screaming at Kane for getting in their way. He simply reminds them who he is, and they start shaking in their boots. Sheath slinks away, muttering that both commoners and nobles are nothing but trash. Louis watches them leave, concluding that all nobles are the same, just using status to do whatever they want. You and I have seen this type before. Kane walks up and praises his strength and guts, actually offering to team up for the next round. But fangirls swarm Kane, begging to be on his team. In seconds, he's buried under a crowd of desperate students. One guy watches the chaos, wondering how Lord Kane gets this much attention at such a young age. Well, his buddy explains he's the young master of the Sage Oranka family. Teaming with him is basically a guaranteed pass. Louis's interest is finally piqued. But then, the principal appears in a flash of light, congratulating everyone on passing the test of will. He announces the next phase, the power test, and with a simple flick of his finger, glowing marks appear on every single participant in the room. Most students just stare at the marks, having no idea what's happening. But Kane knows exactly what it is, an Earth attribute mark. Right then, everyone gets slammed to the floor, as their bodies suddenly become heavy as lead. Aronian triggers a massive magic circle and announces that for the second exam, they'll have to fight on stage while crushed under the weight of Earth magic. Everyone's struggling just to stay upright. Some students cry out that fighting in this gravity is impossible. But wait, one guy is just strolling around like it's absolutely nothing. Kane spots those massive footprints on the floor. Meanwhile, Louis, the gravity defier everyone is talking about, steps onto the stage effortlessly, leaving everyone stunned. Aronian offers a congratulations for taking first place again, while Louis just smirks at the Earth magic strings that couldn't even slow him down. Kane is reeling, 3 years of master-level training, yet he can still barely keep his own feet, while the other candidates suffer. Aronian announces that only those still standing can move on, then he begins using magic to summon a massive rack of weapons for the survivors to choose from. Louis grabs a sword immediately, giving it a few sharp swings to test the weight, while the others can barely lift their heavy gear. Aronian warns them, one step off this stage, and you are disqualified on the spot. The exam starts, and he orders the officials to release the bound slimes before simply vanishing. With him gone, the confused candidates start wondering what on earth a bound slime even is. But Louis spots something falling fast from the sky. They land and the rules are set: 1 point for blocking, 2 points for a clean dodge, and 5 points for a kill. Aronian adds that their final rank depends entirely on these points, and only the top 100 will make it to the third test. Some guys think these slimes look easy, just dumb, low-level monsters, right? Wrong. But as soon as one guy charges in, the slime rockets forward and absolutely wrecks the poor guy's face. It blazes through a second student before charging the crowd as everyone watches in pure horror. Soon, the stage turns into a playground for the slimes, surrounding and tormenting the helpless candidates. While most of the crowd gets knocked out, a few actually manage to dodge and block, earning points from the watching exam supervisors. One supervisor notes that this year's lineup includes the young masters from the legendary sage families, specifically the Ianka and Durham houses. Meaning Kane and that red-headed warrior girl, she's betting a new record is about to be set. Another examiner chimes in that some commoners are showing serious talent too, and wonders if that guy Aronian helped earlier is just an ordinary commoner. Aronian expects Louis to show them something incredible, but the supervisor points out the kid hasn't moved a single step. As Louis just stands there, a struggling candidate screams out, asking what he's doing. And in response, some arrogant noble starts mocking him, laughing that a pathetic commoner could never keep up with these slimes. Since Louis is frozen, the noble bets that he's going to get knocked out any second. Right then, a slime rockets toward Louis, picking up speed until it is right at the back of his head. Before the impact can even land, Louis dodges effortlessly, while another nearby candidate barely manages to evade the slime too. Right before it slams into that unlucky noble who was just talking all that trash. With his friend face down on the floor, the blonde noble is frozen. He was absolutely certain that Louis couldn't dodge an attack at that speed. Since the slime missed its main target, the slime goes on a rampage, taking out several other candidates. Then, Louis looks to his left and he notices the monster charging again, this time with 2 lightning-fast slimes flanking him. The blonde examinee smirks. He is convinced there is no way Louis can dodge this incoming assault. But our hero stays cool, closing his eyes as he prepares the ultimate counterattack. Not long ago, Louis was once training in the frozen mountains, asking a group of seasoned adventurers to pelt him with heavy rocks. However, the warriors were stunned. They warned him that getting hit by those stones would be incredibly dangerous. Louis brushed it off, telling them he had a specific theory he needed to test out. He took his stance and they told him to get ready. Then, they launched the rocks at him. Instead of jumping away, he just stands there, staring intensely at the projectiles flying toward him. In his previous life, he trained to send data instantly from the parietal line straight to the cerebellum of the brain. He knew that if his reactions were instant, he could dismantle any attack in the world. As the rocks close in, his body erupts with aura, glowing with pure power. His brain starts running high-speed calculations, allowing him to dodge every single rock with ease. The adventurers are amazed. They start cheering and praising him for such a godlike display of skill. They swarm him immediately, begging to know everything about this insane new technique. He smiles and gives the skill a name, which is void combat calculation. When asked what that even means, he explains it as a method used to predict every battle outcome. Back in the present, those slimes are closing the gap at terrifying speeds. He stares directly at them. Complex mathematical formulas flood his mind as he calculates their incoming attack. 4 slimes strike from every angle. But he is totally unfazed. His math already revealed a massive weakness in these slimes. Despite their speed and power, these slimes can only ever charge at him in perfectly straight lines. He calculates the velocity and rebound angles to stay 1 step ahead of them. He predicts their trajectory and dances through the air, dodging all 4 slimes with style and grace. Now that he has secured 8 points just by dodging, He flips the switch to offense, unleashing a sword slash that vaporizes all 4 slimes instantly. Kane just stares. The supervisors are even more stunned. They realize his perception is on par with a high-grade fighter. Kane just grins. He realizes Louis is a master of special combat techniques and decides they are going to be teammates. Just then, a lone slime charges forward, clearly looking for some payback for its fallen friends. Louis declares he has 5 more points in the bag, but Kane suddenly strikes first with a sword pierce move. This ticks Louis off, and he accuses the guy of stealing his easy kill. Kane just gives a playful shrug, showing off the slime kebab on his sword and telling him that what he stole was not his. He swings his blade through the air, causing the slime to split in 2. The remains land right in front of the other examinees. He flashes a smile and says he stole it from them. He introduces himself with a smile and asks Louis to join him in stealing everyone's points. Louis just stares blankly. So he explains he just wants the top rank and proposes a competition to see who gets more points. Kane finally challenges Louis to stop holding back and show his true strength. Louis just smirks, applauding the kid's sheer confidence before finally giving in to the request. Gripping his sword tight, he steps behind Kane, promising to unleash everything he's got right here and now. But there's a catch. The loser has to obey whatever the winner demands. Taking his fighting stance, Kane just grins and accepts, noting that no one's ever dared to make demands of him before. Suddenly, slimes start closing in from every side. Sheath's lackeys are watching closely. Realizing this chaotic battlefield is the perfect chance to finish their master's dirty work. As a slime zips by, they draw their bows and let fly a volley straight at Kane and Louis. Louis spots a slime lunging in and instantly cleaves the monster in 2. But wait, 3 arrows are suddenly inches away from his face. A massive crash rings out, catching Kane's attention while those cowards celebrate, thinking they've actually hit their mark. But Louis just smirks. When the dust settles, everyone's stunned to see the combat genius caught all 3 arrows with a single hand. They can only stare, completely paralyzed by fear and shock. How could anyone react to a sneak attack like it was absolutely nothing? It's like he saw it coming a mile away. Louis casually drives the arrows into the dirt. Kane checks in, calling Sheath's guys absolute trash for playing dirty, but Louis just brushes it off. Those corrupt nobles grow desperate, drawing their bows again while marking Kane as their next target. One of them triggers a deadly magic arrow skill, launching the enchanted double arrow directly at Kane, along with a barrage from the others. Kane deflects the standard arrows with ease, showing off his perfect fencing technique. But that dark arrow, it's locked on and closing fast. He's pinned down. Suddenly, blood sprays into the air as the arrow finds its mark. Somehow, Kane missed the hidden purple arrow, buried within the flurry of attacks. Luckily, Louis steps in at the last second, catching the arrow before it's too late. But it costs him. Blood starts gushing from his hand. Kane rushes over to help the man who just saved his life. However, the wound doesn't slow him down for a second. He snaps the arrow, ready for the next round. Up in the stands, a spectator alerts the principal to the blatant cheating happening down below. They're demanding the attackers be disqualified for that lethal stunt. But the principal refuses to stop the event, convinced these weaklings are going to lose anyway. He decides to delay their punishment until later, but orders healing potions to be ready just in case. Back on the field, Louis prepares to end this fight, winding up like he's about to throw a major league pitch. With eyes glowing and massive power building up, he launches a slime like a cannonball, slamming it right into one of those nobles at high speed. The impact sends the guy flying straight out of the ring. Boom, 1 down, disqualified instantly. The rest of the nobles are starting to lose it. Absolute panic is setting in. But Louis isn't about to let the rest of them off the hook yet. He leaps high into the air, launching another slime projectile at the terrified group. It catches a noble right in the jaw, knocking his teeth loose as he hits the deck. The last one standing is so paralyzed by fear, he doesn't even realize Louis is right behind him. Louis scares him, sending the guy staggering back in fear. All right, check this out. Kane catches him off balance, trips the guy, and watches him tumble out. With the nobles down, Kane thanks Louis for the assist and checks if his hand is okay. Luckily, he is perfectly fine, and they share a firm handshake to seal their brand new friendship. Louis teases Kane for being one talented noble. But Kane stands his ground, bragging about being part of the legendary Oranka family. You see, the Oranka family is elite, famous for producing legendary grandmasters and wise sages over generations. Their power is massive, actually rivaling the royal family and even the big Arcanist Association itself. Realizing Kane's family is no joke. Louis quickly takes back his joke, and they both get ready to handle the remaining slimes. However, seeing Louis racking up all those points just makes the lower-ranked nobles even angrier. They ignore the slimes and charge at him instead. They charge forward, not even caring that Kane is standing right there beside him. Their plan to hit 2 targets at once fails miserably when higher-ranked nobles step in. It becomes a massive free-for-all fight between all the different noble factions, while Kane and Louis watch each other's backs. Now look closer. Amidst the battle stands a red-haired girl who looks to be from a very reputable family. She calls out to her friend, Miliana, a fellow commoner, telling her it is finally time to make those arrogant nobles pay for their insults. The red-haired girl dives into the fight, and Miliana follows right behind her. The combat is getting crazy as Louis flips through the air, dodging slimes and enemy attacks. Miliana jumps right into the action, tripping one noble while her red-haired friend sends another flying into the stone walls. Suddenly, a new powerhouse enters the heat of battle. And he is a red-haired guy, swinging one absolutely massive hammer around. Feeling like the god of thunder, he swings that hammer without mercy, clearing out every single obstacle. In his eyes, smashing people is way more fun than hitting some slimes. He lets out a huge roar while easily blasting his opponents across the entire arena. Meanwhile, the crowd is starting to get nervous, and they suggest stopping the exam right now, since the majority of those being disqualified are actually nobles. If any more nobles fail, the academy might face major problems. But the principal isn't worried, believing the academy needs to stick to its own strict rules. Right then, he streaks into the arena in a flash of radiant light to stop the total chaos. He announces that the second exam is finally over, and the rankings will be posted soon. During the break, the wounded participants get healing potions, while the earth magic effects are finally cleared away. Louis drinks his healing potion, and is shocked by how well it actually works. Sadly, it is a super expensive item that commoners like him can almost never afford. Now look at these results. You and I might be as shocked as the crowd is right now. It turns out that Louis's name is nowhere to be found. And this news gets those petty, low-ranked nobles very excited. Wait, this list only shows those who ranked from 6th place down. According to the principal, the top 5 all smashed the record scores, so he starts calling them out one by one. In 5th place is Miliana Royce, one seriously talented commoner. Kane takes home 4th place, while that red-haired girl, Fa Durahan, grabs 3rd. With Kane's name called, Louis starts getting nervous since he still hasn't heard his own name yet. Louis starts to worry if he has been disqualified for that beatdown he gave those low-ranked nobles earlier. But those fears vanish as his name is called for 2nd place with 887 points. The room erupts in shock. A commoner actually outplayed nearly every single noble in the entire building. Meanwhile, Kane gives Louis a solid pat on the back for a job well done. Remember their deal? Now Kane owes Louis a favor, and it is time to pay up. Kane asks what he wants, but Louis decides to keep that favor in his back pocket for later. Suddenly, the 1st place winner is announced. It is Neil Gunn with a massive 888 points. That is the red-haired kid who went absolutely wild earlier, swinging that giant hammer of his around. He is another commoner who crushed the competition, leaving even Faye in his dust. And believe me, she is not happy. She vows to challenge Neil to a real duel someday, just to see how strong he really is. After the rankings, the The lower-ranked nobles get chewed out by their seniors for letting commoners wipe the floor with them. Even the spectators are stunned. Both the top spots were snatched by commoners, which is completely unheard of. This has never happened before in the entire history of the academy. But the principal, he is actually loving this. He tells everyone that true power has absolutely nothing to do with social status. That is why the Arcanist Association runs most of the orphanages. They are looking for raw, untapped talent. With that, the principal leads the group to the next area for their final, massive hurdle. While they make their way, Kane gives Louis props for almost hitting number 1. Now, he is wondering who would actually win between Louis and Neil. Soon, they reach the final stage. The principal announces the final test, a brutal survival game called Emblem Battle Royale. Here is the deal. Everyone gets an emblem before being teleported into the deep forest. It is about to get very wild, very fast. The goal, steal as many emblems as you can. There are no rules on how you get the job done. Lose your emblem and you are out. Instant disqualification, no second chances allowed for anyone. Only the top 10 players with the most emblems will actually be admitted into the academy. Unfortunately, these rules mean Kane and Louis are officially on their own. No teamwork allowed in this hunt. They wish each other luck and split. Just like that, the participants are teleported away to random spots. Louis lands safely in his starting zone. He starts moving, knowing this is the final hurdle between him and the life he has always wanted. He is determined to win this whole thing, but suddenly, a noble with a giant axe blocks his path. This guy is absolutely furious. He wants payback for the way Louis humiliated the nobles earlier. It is a trap. 2 more nobles with spears suddenly close in from behind him. Louis is surrounded. Then Louis spots another one. A sniper with a crossbow is perched high in the tree branches. He is cornered. He realizes right away that the senior who teleported him must have leaked his exact location. Without warning, the axe-wielder swings that massive blade right at Louis's head. Louis dodges just in time. The axe slams into a solid rock, shattering it into pieces on the ground. Then the spear wielders lunge forward to finish him off as well. But Louis clears them easily with a perfect backflip. While midair, a crossbow bolt streaks toward him, but Louis is too fast. He just bats it away like a fly. He sticks the landing perfectly, but these nobles, they are not about to give up that easily. They charge him all at once. Now Louis is going to show them exactly what real skill looks like. He slips through their strike smoothly, but another arrow comes whistling in yet again. He bats it away with his steel, only for a spear thrust to lunge from behind. Luckily, his reflexes kick in just in time. His insane reactions are starting to drive these nobles crazy. They are not backing down yet. Meanwhile, Louis is getting annoyed because he cannot predict those tricky wind arrow paths. However, he steadies his breathing and prepares to unleash a high-level counterattack known as Senozin. This deadly technique focuses on turning an opponent's own momentum against them. The nobles charge forward with everything they have. That is when Louis spots the perfect opening. First up is the brute with the axe, swinging with every ounce of his strength. Stepping right, he avoids the heavy blade and positions his own sword right beneath the handle. With a sharp flick, he sends the axe flying into one of the nearby spear users. 2 down, suddenly another spearman lunges at Louis with a lethal jab. At the same time, the sniper in the tree fires off another wind arrow. Louis tracks the projectile's path and maneuvers the spearman right into the arrow's line of fire. The poor guy is blown away, dropping his spear, as the weapon spins through the air. Louis catches it mid-flight and hurls it at the sniper, taking him out instantly. He carves through the remaining nobles with ease, collecting every single one of their emblems. Suddenly, Kane appears in the canopy to stop the nobles from using magic against our main character. The mastermind, who originally planned to overwhelm Kane using a separate squad of weaklings, is completely floored by his sudden arrival right in their backyard. Kane mocks them, saying he underestimated the Oranka family by thinking these weaklings could stall him. He drops the guy with a crossbow bolt. Then, Kane leaps down to hand over an emblem. He warns that things will only get messier and offers to fight by his side. Louis isn't having it though, insisting he can handle his own battles without any help. Suddenly, applause rings out as a mysterious figure steps forward to praise Louis' spirit. They claim it is exactly what they expected from the one person they view as a true rival. The shadow reveals herself. It is none other than the legendary Faye Durahan. She demands a duel, prompting Louis to ask Kane if this girl is his friend. Kane makes it clear they are not friends. She is a grandmaster's daughter whom he fought once in the past. He admits he lost that time by being careless, so he tells Louis to just focus on emblems. He warns that Faye can use magic and is already at a formidable apprentice level. Meanwhile, their talking starts to annoy Faye, and she snaps at them for even thinking of running. Louis accepts the fight, admitting he's always been curious to see how an elite family member actually holds up in battle. This gets Faye fired up. She promises to hold back her magic to keep things fair. In a heartbeat, she lunges forward and drives her spear toward Louis' chest. But Louis traps the spear under his arm, catching her completely by surprise. She spins the weapon around for a wide swing, but he slips to the side effortlessly. Right then, Faye jumps ahead, unleashing her powerful sacred lance slam technique at him. Just as expected, he dodges. The spear smashes into the earth, leaving a massive crater behind. That devastating impact leaves the observers and the principal in total shock as they watch nearby. Everyone begins to wonder about Faye's true power and Louis' incredible resilience. Everyone starts to wonder how long Louis can actually last against a great family, and they turn to the principal for answers. The principal simply says, "Louis stands zero chance. This isn't just a fight, it's a brutal clash of pure body and will." From what he has seen so far, Louis' resolve just doesn't measure up to Faye's iron will. Right on cue, their wills are tested as Faye unleashes another high-level spear technique to end this. However, he dodges every move effortlessly, moving as if he's pre-programmed for this exact fight. While weaving through her spear strikes, he spots a gap in her defense and goes for the kill. Faye catches on quick encounters, but Louis just leaps right over her, landing perfectly behind her. Faye is fuming that he keeps dodging. She even throws shade at Kane for being way slower than this. But Louis claims it's all about observation. With enough practice, dodging stuff like this is actually pretty easy. Faye lunges forward with a sacred lance technique called crescent fall, aiming to tear right through him. Yet again, he evades every single strike without even breaking a sweat. This time, he analyzes spear techniques on the fly, thrusts, sweeps, defense, and suppression. He knows them all. They're troublesome, sure, but every technique has a weakness just waiting to be exploited. Spear users are vulnerable in close combat, and Louis is about to take full advantage of that. He charges straight at Faye, trying to close the gap immediately. He needs to get inside her range to set up a massive counterattack. No luck, she reads his move and smacks his sword right out of the way. She mocks him, claiming her family's legendary spear technique has absolutely zero weaknesses. Suddenly, she starts spinning her spear, so fast it creates a literal tornado of steel. Now look at this, the crowd is blown away. To them, Louis is as good as finished. But Louis just drops into a stance, readying his sword to parry that insane flurry of strikes. As he deflects the blows, he's aiming for a different weakness now, the massive stamina drain these heavy moves require. He defends perfectly, just waiting for that one tiny opening. But look closely, his sword is cracking. It's happening right as Faye finally tires out and her form reappears in the storm. Louis sees it and strikes her immediately. Disaster strikes. His sword shatters just inches before making contact with her. Realizing his plan just failed, he quickly leaps back to avoid any incoming counterattack. Surprisingly, Faye admits he's good. Without that stroke of luck, she'd have been totally obliterated. She's no fool. She knows Louis is holding back and calls him out on it. He just makes an excuse, claiming he likes to observe before really going all out. But now, observation is over. He's getting serious, even though Faye is worried about his broken blade. Louis tells her not to worry. He's actually better off without a sword. His fists are the real weapons. Channeling his inner martial arts master, Louis takes a stance, while Faye readies her spear again. Ready to strike. She zooms forward with a high-speed spinning charge, and Kane, who has been quiet this whole time, screams at Louis to get out of the way. Unbelievably, Louis slows that spinning spear with one palm and then traps it with the other. In the end, so you and I witness the impossible. He catches the spear mid-spin, leaving everyone speechless. The spectators are losing their minds too, but the principal manages to keep his cool. All right, you and I are watching closely, still trying to process exactly how Louis pulled that off. But Faye is not done yet, snatching her spear back with fierce determination. She launches a new technique, creating a flurry of illusions to strike from every angle. But panic, never. Louis takes a calm breath and settles into a solid martial arts stance. With simple palm strikes, he effortlessly parries every single attack, diverting the pressure away. It is a skill neither Faye nor the principal have ever witnessed before. Then he lands a heavy blow, sending Faye flying backward, luckily for her. She jams her spear into the dirt, slowly grinding that massive momentum to a halt. Once she stops, she asks about the technique he just used, and he calmly replies that it is just a form of parry in martial arts. He lunges back in for more, forcing Faye to swing her spear in a frantic defense. Incredibly, Louis just dances around every strike with zero effort. He looks like he is right there, yet impossible to touch at the same time. Even Kane wonders if this is an optical illusion. Meanwhile, Faye is absolutely fuming because she cannot land a single clean hit. As it turns out, Louis is using the legendary butterfly step. It is an elegant footwork style, perfected by a legendary boxer from the past. By rapidly shifting his feet back and forth, he creates a rhythm that completely shuts down Faye's spear techniques. He quickly corners Faye and delivers a strike that blows her away. Seeing this, the principal and the crowd, along with us, start wondering if Louis is some combat genius. Even though Faye is on the ground clutching her stomach, she refuses to quit. She drops her spear and charges Louis with nothing but her bare fists. Louis stays sharp, immediately shifting his weight into a specialized Wing Chun stance. Faye strikes with a crushing fist technique, but he is already there to block it. The raw impact feels strangely familiar, almost like the inch power he knows. Louis actually smiles, impressed by her resilience. But Faye is unimpressed. She shouts that the Durahan family is more than just spears, before slamming another crushing fist into him. Louis braces himself, ready for the heavy impact. And the two begin trading blows like seasoned kung fu masters. Surprisingly, Louis starts getting a bit too excited. Fighting a strong opponent like this is everything he ever wanted. As the fight grows intense, he demands even more. His eyes turn a bloodshot red, and his heart starts racing with intensity. He lunges at Faye, a terrifying aura of killing intent leaking from his body. Faye looks up at him and is instantly paralyzed by pure terror. To her, he looks like a demonic beast with massive fangs, ready to swallow her whole. Her body just will not move fast enough to dodge his incoming strike. She barely blocks the punch, but the force sends her crashing hard into a tree. Even the principal is stunned by that strange, dark aura radiating from Louis right now. The other nobles see Faye getting smashed into the woods and they are absolutely fuming that a mere commoner just humiliated a noble from a great house. They step up to retaliate, but a sudden, overwhelming pressure hits them all. One of them actually gags and throws up, wondering why he suddenly feels so sick. But looking at Louis and that demonic aura, the terrifying truth finally starts to sink in. All right, you and I are watching as a jealous noble named Sheath observes the duel. Alongside his injured friend, Brian, they are forced to admit Louis is way stronger than expected. This realization fills Sheath with pure rage. His plan to crush the commoner has completely backfired. Brian decides right then and there that Louis needs to be eliminated permanently. Recalling ancient legends, he believes letting someone like Louis live is a massive mistake and wants the boy's life ended as soon as humanly possible. Meanwhile, Louis stays in a blind rage, lunging straight at Faye. Laughing like a maniac, he pummels her, sending her flying as she coughs up even more blood. Right then, he flash steps midair and slams her into the ground with a brutal series of heavy fist attacks. Faye barely holds her guard, taking the full force of his relentless assault while realizing Louis' power has spiked to an absolutely terrifying level. Seeing the massive power gap, she knows there is zero chance of winning. Staring down his glowing aura, she feels like her entire life is flashing before her eyes. But she refuses to just die. Faye quickly triggers her secret martial technique, Blaze Fist, trying one last desperate counter against Louis' strike. However, Louis' raw power is too much. She's sent soaring again, smashing through trees as she tumbles away. Suddenly, Louis snaps out of it, realizing he lost control of his mind again. He looks at his own burnt hand, questioning the magic, when Kane rushes over to check if he's still in one piece. Suddenly, Sheath steps out and loudly announces that Louis is disqualified, claiming his emblem was destroyed during the chaos. He demands Louis leave right now, but Kane argues back, saying it was clearly just an accident. Sheath claims the principal saw everything and shouts for Louis to get off the exam grounds immediately. Before Louis can react, Faye speaks up and tells the noble scumbag to back off. Louis is shocked she is even still conscious. Sheath accuses her of helping the commoner cheat, but Faye shuts him up without a second thought. She actually apologizes to Louis for accidentally using magic during their fight, which leaves Kane speechless. He never thought she'd ever say sorry to anyone. Then, Louis apologizes for going berserk, but she shrugs it off. Since he forced her to use magic, it's her loss. Faye admits defeat and hopes for a proper rematch once they both officially enroll. Sheath just scoffs, pointing out that Louis only managed to collect 4 emblems. Without flinching, Faye pulls out her own stash of emblems and hands them to Louis as his reward. This adds 10 more to his pile, and Faye forces the furious noble senior to validate it. Now, here is the real twist. Faye teams up with Kane to hunt every weakling down, ensuring no one else can disqualify Louis. Kane is totally down with the plan, and the two of them head off to begin their absolute conquest. As they leave, Kane teases her for finally using her brain, though Faye is only focused on grabbing more emblems for Louis. Shortly after, an examiner approaches Louis and tells him he's disqualified, escorting him away. Sheath hopes he has seen the last of him, but Brian notes that Louis might still pass if Faye's plan actually works out. Suddenly, Sheath realizes it is not weird for an examinee to die by accident during this exam. Brian watches him make some truly eerie plans to end Louis' life. He is left questioning Louis' true identity after that unsettling feeling he had earlier. Later that day, Louis turns in his emblems while reflecting on how martial arts alone cannot match magic. He hopes to join the academy and finally merge his martial arts with magic. Heading home that night, Louis tries to figure out how to explain those shredded clothes to his mother. He passes a shady character. While he is distracted, an assassin tries for a stealthy kill. Reacting instantly, Louis lands a brutal backheel kick that sends the killer flying. The shocked assassin wonders how he was spotted. He coolly answers that the stench of blood on him is impossible to hide. Suddenly, more assassins appear. Their leader is baffled. Why is this kid so calm when he is about to die? Surrounded by 3 killers, Louis senses their power and decides it is time to go all out. But he senses a much stronger presence watching from the nearby bushes. Annoyed, the leader snaps at him for losing focus and lunges forward with a dagger coated in magic. He shouts that Louis will be 6 feet under in no time if he keeps playing around, with the assassin leader charging at him at full speed. Louis dodges the flurry of rapid stabs coming his way. He catches the man's hand and slams him hard against the ground. But the killer recovers quickly, jumping back to rejoin his squad. He admits his intel was right about Louis having top-tier skills. Louis has no clue what he is saying. After praising Louis' hand-to-hand skills, he wonders how he will handle pure magic. Without missing a beat, he orders his team to begin the magical assault. Right then, the three assassins unleash a barrage of wind arrows at Louis. Luckily, he is fast enough to dodge them. He looks at the shredded trees. Seeing the damage, he realizes just how destructive those wind arrows really are. Knowing he has no choice but to keep pushing forward, Louis takes a deep breath and activates a specialized breathing technique. He channels internal Kai to boost his strength and gain explosive speed. Then he charges straight at them. But the leader just laughs and orders another wave of wind arrows. Louis skillfully weaves through the fire, making the assassins lose sight of him completely. Suddenly, Louis drops from the sky and lands a massive kick on the leader. He slams into the dirt as Louis quickly retreats to dodge more arrows. Furious, the leader orders his men to stop Louis now. Out of nowhere, another assassin appears behind Louis and launches a surprise chop kick. Luckily, Louis senses the hidden strike and manages to block it in time. But the impact sends a painful jolt through his arms. He regroups and glares at this newcomer, realizing they are a serious threat. Before Louis can even move, he finds himself completely surrounded, struggling to dodge wind arrows flying in from every single angle. Trapped by the relentless assault, Louis gets struck and passes out cold. The assassins catch their breath, stunned that a commoner managed to survive for so long against them. One steps forward to finish the job, but Louis snaps awake and takes him out instantly. He grabs the dead man's crossbow and starts firing wind arrows at the remaining killers. Two of them go down, but the strongest assassin easily deflects the shot with his weapon. Realizing the kid was just faking being unconscious, he actually praises Louis's guts. Louis asks why he's not bothered about his dead men, but the villain doesn't value weaklings. Right then, Louis fires more wind arrows, but this guy's movement is on a whole different level of speed. He lunges at Louis, conjuring a massive magic hammer from nothing. As he swings it, he admits he actually wanted to train Louis as his own personal disciple. But his boss's orders mean he has to end him. Louis tries to block the heavy strike with his body, but the impact sends him flying. Still in the air, the assassin Flash steps right next to him. He says that while Louis might be better than an apprentice, he's still no match for a high-ranking fighter. Then, he summons that magic hammer once more and slams Louis straight into the ground with insane force. Without giving him a second to breathe, the assassin continues the assault with waves of magic attacks. When the dust finally starts to settle, the assassin is shocked to find that Louis is somehow still clinging to life. Even with all those injuries, the persistent kid forces himself back into a defensive stance. Though he's clearly in agony, Louis vows he won't stop here, but the killer has other ideas. He claims nobody can save Louis from certain death, as he creates yet another magical hammer. Unable to move, Louis panics while staring down the enemy, who's about to send him to the afterlife. The assassin triggers his powerful martial arcane skill, known as the Celestial Hammer. And just like that, Louis's entire life starts flashing before his eyes. He remembers his goal to master magic and protect his family at the orphanage. Reckless or not, he decides to change his fate, and the aura around him suddenly shifts into something wild. He counters with a mysterious power that actually manages to hold the assassin's attack back. The collision is so intense that the power struggle triggers a massive, blinding explosion. Moments later, Louis is coughing on the ground, while the assassin wonders why it feels like he's fighting an equal. Finally seeing why Louis was such a high-priority target, he raises his hammer again, ready to kill this monster. Then, out of the blue, a booming voice orders the assassin to stop what he's doing. A violent wind vortex cuts him off before he can finish the job. As he tries to run, more wind vortices trap him in place, crushing him with a truly overwhelming amount of pressure. With no way out, the assassin screams in pain as the magic binds his body tight. Completely confused by the sudden rescue, Louis wonders who could have stepped in to save him. And then, suddenly, Principal Aronian arrives, praising the boy for managing to suppress his internal rampage. He gives Louis a potion to drink before turning a cold, sharp gaze toward the trapped assassin. He starts the interrogation immediately, demanding to know exactly who sent an intruder into his school. The killer realizes he's facing a grandmaster, but warns that Louis's doom is already set in stone. He laughs hysterically, shouting that this is only the beginning before blowing himself up. Witnessing such a gruesome and disturbing end, you and I are watching Aronian worry about the Assassin's Guild, hoping he's just being paranoid. Meanwhile, Louis feels the potion kick in. It's unreal how it knits his fractured bones back together again instantly. He turns to Aronian, questioning if it's just some random fluke that the principal always shows up at the exact perfect moment to save his life. Aronian decides to save the real Tok'fur when they finally reach the boys' home. Suddenly, Louis hits the panic button. It's getting late, and he knows his mom is gonna freak. Without losing another moment, he sprints home while Aronian summons a strange spirit named Kylie to handle the messy cleanup work. Elsewhere, in the quiet town of Manhwa, up in the northern Candria Empire, two lowlife nobles are currently harassing Laciella. Using a repaired millstone as a weak excuse, they bully her while she waits for the kids. Liella tries to stay calm, explaining she's just waiting. But these guys don't care. They keep closing in, clearly planning to do something way worse than talk. Luckily, Louis arrives just in time to shut these two idiots down. Laciella is thrilled he's back, but she's horrified by how beat up he looks. Louis asks if she's hurt, but she's focused on his shredded clothes and the blood. As he scrambles to make up some excuses, the nobles start making threats about their lord and a fighter named George. Surprise! Principal Aronian arrives, floating right in midair. As he floats down, he steps in to clear up the confusion. He introduces himself, putting serious pressure on these two to get lost. Realizing he's a true grandmaster, the nobles bow down and scurry away fast. Aronian turns to Liella, telling her it's time for a very serious conversation. Laciella leads him inside, but Aronian immediately spots that millstone those lowlifes were whining about earlier. He wonders how it runs automatically, with zero magic involved. Looking closer, he realizes these genius little inventions are hidden everywhere. Liella serves some fruit, giving all the props to Louis for making their lives so much easier. She nervously asks if Louis committed a crime to bring a principal to their door. But Aronian clarifies that it's actually the exact opposite. Not only that, he explains that Louis has talent only mentioned in the ancient Gaia scriptures, way back when. When monsters ruled with an iron fist, a goddess-blessed genius appeared from among the humans. He founded the martial arcane after mastering the very essence of the elements. Within 5 short years, he and his crew wiped out the monsters and pulled humanity back from the brink. Ever since, that specific day became celebrated as Liberation Day, and the man is known as the first hero. While Laciella gushes over this legendary savior, Louis notes this isn't in any of the folk stories, but Aronian insists it's very real. But then he drops a bomb. The first hero had black hair and eyes, a secret to the elite. Turns out, a dark madness consumed his heart, leading to a sin so terrible they wiped him from history. This shocks Louis. He starts wondering if he also carries that same dark madness within. Aronian adds that every nation now hunts down those with black hair and eyes to prevent another disaster. The principal starts by calling out Louis for dyeing his hair. But Laciella jumps in to take the blame. Explaining her pure intentions, she begins praising Louis's virtues, but the old man cuts her off. Noting the principal clearly wants something else, since the Grandmaster could have finished him easily. Impressed, Aronian admires the boy's sharp intuition and notes that he's finally mastered the darkness lurking deep inside him. In a shocker, the principal names Louis as the hero of this new, peaceful age. Reaching out with telekinesis to grab a fruit, he warns of the shadows hidden everywhere and vows to guide Louis after seeing his raw potential. He hurls the fruit at Louis, who catches it without even blinking an eye. Right after, Aronian admits he passed mainly because Faye and Cain wiped out almost every other candidate. Then, he offers to take Louis as his personal disciple at the academy. but our guy just asks what happens if he ever loses control again. Suddenly, the fruit in his hand is sliced to ribbons, leaving him stunned. With a freezing stare, Aronian vows he'll personally end Louis's life if that day comes. The next morning, while working in the yard, his foster sibling celebrates the principal's invite, though Louis knows it was actually more of a threat. His brother rants about tuition costs, while Louis ponders his strange tie to the legendary hero. Stick with me, because Louis starts wondering if that old man is actually trustworthy. Before the principal took off last night, Louis questioned why he'd tell Laciella everything and make her worry like that. The old man argued that ignorance is a weakness, but Louis disagreed. Aronian insisted she had to know, since the whole family's in danger if the truth ever gets out. Flying away, he told Louis to get stronger because the real trials were just beginning. Snapping back, Louis agrees with the old man and prepares for the academy. A moment later, his younger siblings arrive to say their final goodbyes, and little Lana leaps right into his arms. With teary eyes, she begs for visits and makes him pinky promise to return for the holidays. Then, his brother tells him a noble's butler is outside looking for him. Heading out, Louis goes to meet the mysterious visitor, who confirms his identity and hands over an invite, while introducing himself as a servant of the Oranka house. Recognizing Kane's personal invite, Louis senses an attempt to build a bond and decides to play along. The butler escorts him to the carriage, and the long journey begins. Later that day, they finally roll into the town of Harzan. And as Louis steps out, the butler gives him the rundown on the Orankas. Louis is floored by the massive mansion, but Kane is already there to greet him. Kane reminds him they're classmates now, and Louis credits his help in the final exam. He even mentions Faye's help and decides to let their old bet go. But Kane insists he would have passed anyway with Faye's stamp of approval. Then he reveals his real plan for Louis. He acts as Kane's sparring partner while sharing vital info about the academy and magic. Suddenly, Kane's mother arrives and lashes out at him for bringing a commoner home. Kane stands his ground, insisting that Louis is actually his friend. She ignores him entirely, asking Louis what his true intentions are for approaching her son. Repulsed by even sharing the same heir as a commoner, she throws a ring worth dozens of gold coins at him. She orders him to get lost, but Kane isn't backing down this time. When he turns to apologize, he's shocked to see Louis picking up the gold ring. Louis explains that he truly recognized Kane's potential, and that's how they became friends. He then asks if she thinks Kane's words are as cheap as that gold ring. This immediately sends her into a total rage. While staring him down with pure hatred, she screams for the butlers to kick him out. They rush in to obey her. Kane tries to defend his friend, claiming Louis actually beat the powerful Faye. But she doesn't believe a word of it. It sounds completely insane to her. Louis confirms it, saying Kane will only grow stronger with him around. That arrogance pisses the mother off. Suddenly, the mansion doors fly open as a massive wind blows the butlers aside. Enter Kane's father, William. He steps inside and repeats Louis's confident declaration. The mother flinches and tries to explain, but he just walks right past her. Kane bows to his father. Louis follows suit, introducing himself to the powerful man. He's thinking about William's insane aura. It's clearly on the same level as Aronian. William asks if the rumors are true. Kane admits Louis is definitely stronger. Intrigued, William demands proof and unleashes a killing intent that looks like a savage tiger. Before Louis can react, the aura's fangs sink into his chest. Suddenly, it's like he can't even breathe. Right then, Louis starts to panic. He realizes William is actually trying to kill him right here. William's gaze pierces him like a blade, his sheer willpower tearing through Louis's very soul. While trying to stay focused, Louis realizes just how terrifying a Grandmaster's willpower is. But wait, he's built a massive resistance to killing intent after years of hunting deadly monsters. Fired up now, his soul begins to heal itself with pure, burning resolve. His spirit erupts, and to William's absolute shock, it takes the form of a dragon. A massive clash of wills begins as the two spiritual entities battle for dominance. Once the dust settles, Cain rushes over to help Louis. He lost the spiritual duel, but stayed standing. William asks Louis why he wants power. Louis says it's simply to protect his family. Without showing even a hint of emotion, William leaves, but not before scolding Cain's weak spirit and telling him to learn from Louis. Furious with how this turned out, the mother tries to argue, but William shuts her down with a cold, sharp look. Feeling relieved, Cain decides to take Louis to the training grounds immediately. At the family's martial arts field, Cain offers a sincere apology for his parents' behavior. Louis tells him it's fine. He admits William was extreme, but tries to ease Cain's worries by acknowledging his potential. But then, Cain insists that Louis is actually a better fit for the Oranka family heir. But Louis thinks William is just testing him to help Cain grow. He questions if this is William's version of love, sending Cain straight down memory lane. Reflecting on his life, Cain barely left the mansion as a kid, living a cycle of eating, sleeping, and training. Apparently, William is dead set on turning him into a legendary sage like his grandfather. He just wanted his father's approval, but soon, the mansion became a cage while his own talent chained him down. The boy longed for freedom, dreaming of flight like a bird across the sky. Sadly, he's too weak for a world where only power matters. As he pulls a rapier from his inventory, he realizes that swinging this blade is his only chance to break those chains. Cain reveals his father also graduated from the academy, and he's determined to get stronger to earn the right to live freely. Cain turns to Louis, relying on him to get stronger as the two finally start their duel. Meanwhile, William watches from the shadows, asking his butler for the latest scoop on their guest. The butler reports that Louis is extraordinary, detailing his insane performance during the exam. After hearing how he crushed Faye and repeatedly got the principal's help, William officially labels Louis a total troublemaker. The butler asks why they'd even let such a headache stay. And William explains that people sharpen their skills through struggle and grow by overcoming real trouble. In his gut, he knows Louis can actually help Cain become truly powerful. Meanwhile, Louis fights unarmed, kicking Cain straight backward. Cain recovers quickly, activating his arcane skill, the wind lunge. He charges at Louis with a lightning-fast stab, boosted by wind magic. But he runs straight into Louis's fist, nearly ruining his face and losing the bout. Louis respects the move, but highlights its massive downsides. After the advice, Cain finally sees why Faye lost, but wonders why Louis is staring at his face. Louis takes the rapier, asking Cain if his fighting style ever felt a bit off. Cain is confused, explaining he is using the secret family techniques that made his father and grandfather absolute legends. Louis suggests there are other ways, making Cain wonder if his path is unique. Just then, Louis stashes the rapier, pulls out a dagger, and calls Cain over. He's got a plan to give Cain's father a massive surprise. Suddenly, the duo lunges at William while armed with their new daggers. But first, Louis takes a second to lecture Cain on the absolute importance of speed. Bringing up that slime test from the academy exam, he explains that speed isn't just movement, it's reaction time and split-second decision-making. Coincidentally, Cain's natural speed fits his wind attribute, but mastering thrust weapons is incredibly difficult. Louis hands Cain 2 daggers, noting that his father's style might not actually suit him. He figures it is finally time for. Louis explains why William's growth stalled at the Grandmaster level, then urges Cain to adopt a custom combat style. This is exactly where things get interesting. Louis asks if Cain's ready, but the boy is willing to do anything to win his freedom. Impressed by that fire, Louis breaks down exactly how this new fighting style works. They plot their ambush on William, ready to show off Cain's true skill and resolve. Soon after, they rush William as Cain instantly triggers his wind magic support spell, known as Accelerate. The spell supercharges their speed, letting them close the gap in a heartbeat. That sudden explosive movement rattles the butler, but William stays calm, easily sidestepping Kane's opening strike right away. Next, Louis Flash steps in, unleashing a flurry of slashes that William dodges with absolutely zero effort. Daggers are the ultimate speed weapon, so Louis decides to fuse them with his combat techniques. Suddenly, Louis triggers his martial art. The butterfly step, he aims to shock William with pure, explosive speed. The move actually surprises William, though he continues to weave through the relentless wave of attacks. Kane follows suit, using aerial skills to boost himself in the absolute midst of all the chaos. He suddenly realizes his body feels lighter than ever before. It brings a feeling of pure freedom he has never felt until now. Realizing these weapons fit him perfectly, he merges his combat moves with his wind magic. That fusion instantly catches William's eye as the power shifts. The sight is shocking. Kane embraces this newfound martial path and lunges forward to get a hit in. Before he connects, William releases a massive outburst, blowing both of the pesky boys right back. He furiously demands to know if Kane is ditching the clan's legacy for this. The duo regroups. Louis immediately barks at Kane to trigger Accelerate once more. Without hesitating, Kane grabs Louis's shoulder and activates the spell, as the duo continues their relentless assault at full throttle. William tracks their perfect synchronization, but his evasion is on a whole other level. Moments later, he actually catches one of Kane's blades with his aura. Kane breaks free from his father's grip, forcing a very quick retreat to safety. This makes William snap, calling the boy a total coward for running. But Kane remembers what Louis taught him about the strategic value of retreating. He steadies his footing and stands his ground against his father. Kane dodges using a tornado spell, regrouping with Louis to strike from behind him at the top speed. They scream at the top of their lungs, praying this next strike connects. See, Louis had previously schooled Kane on a baseball move called the changeup. He showed him how changing speeds can trick anyone. It makes even slow moves look deadly. Done right, it wrecks an enemy's timing and slows down their whole reaction. Even a second of hesitation is an opening. Now, watch as the pair finally puts that lesson into practice together. They aim to bury William under unpredictable speed variations. William lazily avoids their incoming strikes. Ignoring those slow attacks, Kane's delayed strike actually catches him off guard in this very moment. The blade nicks William's shoulder, tearing through his fur. Landing that hit pumps the boys up, fueling their relentless and non-stop assault. But suddenly, William calls a halt. That is enough. William orders Kane not to disgrace the family name before walking off the training field. Kane is absolutely beaming, convinced he just earned his father's rare approval. He celebrates with Louis, while William and the butler finally head out together. Walking away, William reflects on those hit and run tactics used against him. They really lingered. The concept of strategic withdrawal actually starts to intrigue him. He summons a dagger, realizing he just learned something new from the children. Meanwhile, Louis is just bummed he missed a real grandmaster duel. But Kane is having the best day of his entire life. His father finally acknowledged him, so he decides to reward Louis with a massive present for making it a reality. Later at the Aranka family library, Louis is completely blown away by the massive collection of books. Kane brings over a reward box, thanking him for helping find his path so quickly. One look inside and Louis is stunned. These items are extremely valuable. We are talking rare magic texts and academy references that commoners almost never get to see. Hoping these books give him an edge, Kane hands over guides on basic mana theory and elemental attributes. Then he drops some pro tips on the gap between magic and martial arts. And besides, Kane explains the magic awakening ritual, a must for every single new student joining the academy. It is a ritual where you sense the elements through the legendary statue of Gaia. Normally, it costs 10 gold coins just to try it at the church temple. Luckily for Louis, it is free at the academy. Kane then lists various fees and future expenses. He urges Louis to take the gifts and lean on him whenever things get tough. Louis accepts the loot and they officially consider their earlier bet settled for good. Louis knows he needs cash fast, and Julian's mention of magic pharmacy comes to mind. Suddenly, he realizes he can use knowledge from his past life to invent items and get rich even faster. With a plan forming, Louis asks about the Merchant Guild connection, leaving Kane pretty curious about what he is up to. But Louis keeps his secret safe, claiming he will find out soon enough. 1 week later, the freshmen are welcomed into the Candor Arcanist Academy. As Louis boldly walks onto the school grounds, a sophomore named Rose catches a whiff of his cologne and assumes he is from a high noble family. Only the wealthy can afford a scent that trendy. She immediately latches on, offering him a personal tour, as Rose leads him inside. She mentions that the emperor is getting quite old. Now the imperial heirs are clashing with the great noble families right here at school. The principal keeps things looking peaceful on the surface, but do not let that fool you. Behind the scenes, there is a brutal struggle over every single educational resource available. If a student gets targeted and fails to earn points, they are getting expelled. No exceptions. Rose touches his cheek and asks which side his family is supporting. Suddenly, a guy named Brian interrupts, calling Louis the commoner who smashed the school exam records. This shocks Rose. That cologne on Louis' is incredibly expensive, so she gets angry and storms off. Louis just shakes Brian's hand, and Brian warns him that the academy is just a mini empire. He will be dealing with many more Roses. All right, you and I are watching Kane shout for Louis as Brian bolts away. Startled, Kane wonders what those two were discussing, but Louis says it was just a quick hello. He finds out Brian is actually the Chancellor's own son. Two familiar faces appear, and Faye immediately starts trash-talking Brian, calling him a spineless weakling she can't stand. Kane takes it personally, exploding at her for indirectly calling him a weakling too. She scoffs, telling Kane he'll only earn her respect once he becomes as strong as Louis. Seeing her, Louis offers a polite thank you for her exam help. But she shuts him down, insisting he passed solely on his own merit. She raises a fist, declaring that next time they clash, she'll be the one winning. This drives Kane crazy, and he starts shouting because she's totally ignoring him to focus on Louis. After their heated little exchange, Miliana finally drags Faye away by the arm, reminding her they still have to finish their school registration. Once they're gone, Kane hands Louis a massive pouch of gold coins as his rightful cut. Louis is completely stunned that his instructions alone could rake in this much cash. Kane had visited Louis' workshop earlier to bring samples back to the village trading company. Back then, Kane was pretty skeptical that a simple fragrance could actually sell this well. But now, seeing the insane success of the cologne, he even considers getting his mom a bottle. They agree to keep their business venture a total secret for now. Watch closely as they head to the reception desk to finalize their registration together. Louis gets his student card quickly, but the nearby nobles are already fuming about having him as a classmate. They start whispering that he must have used his connections to cheat his way in. Overhearing the gossip, Louis is shocked to learn that Sheath has been expelled. Kane confirms it, explaining that Sheath was the rat behind those assassins from the other day. And the principal kicked him out the second the truth surfaced. Louis' face darkens, realizing Sheath was the one who nearly ended his life. But the trouble doesn't end there. As Kane points out a group of students led by Jess, Sheath's older brother. No one knows what he'll do, so Kane warns Louis to stay close for safety. Jess and his cronies eye Louis from afar, Jess wearing a smile that screams trouble. He's determined to make Louis' life a slow and painful nightmare. Later on in the Grand Hall, the principal welcomes the new freshman with a formal address. After a brief pep talk, he invites Neil to the stage as the top freshman representative. But wait! This giant brute stomps out shirtless with a massive axe, radiating pure bloodlust toward the crowd. The teachers almost jump him, but Aronian holds them back from intervening. Neil starts barking at the students, calling them all pathetic morons. And he announces that his only goal is to crush every single one of them. The crowd erupts in anger, yelling at him for being so arrogant, but Neil just laughs them off. Now, you and I can see his new teacher panicking. Aronian quickly steps in to calm the man down before things get worse. Suddenly, Neil hurls his giant axe into the audience, screaming that he's already found his target. The weapon slams into the floor right in front of Louis, and instantly, Neil leaps down, perching on the handle while staring at Louis like he's nothing more than fresh prey. Out of nowhere, he declares it is time to fight. Kane immediately jumps in, reminding Neil the entrance ceremony is still happening. He blocks Neil's path, shouting for the brute to stay away from Louis. But Neil completely ignores him, focusing his attention on Louis. He asks if Louis is just another loudmouth who is all bark and no bite. Absolutely livid, Kane throws a punch, but Louis steps in to stop him and tells him to chill out. Neil just grins, excited by the tension, claiming he is happy to take them both on. Brian steps in to de-escalate, suggesting that Neil should try getting along with Louis instead. After all, they are both elite commoners, and Neil's reckless attitude might get him kicked out of the academy. With a cold glare, Neil tells Brian to beat it, calling him a boring small fry he isn't interested in. Surrounding Noble's sneer, whispering that commoners lack manners and should never have been admitted here. Kane just laughs at Brian for making a total fool of himself. Then he cracks his knuckles, ready to scrap with Neil, who looks more than ready for war. Too bad, though. A teacher arrives and shuts it down, warning that fighting is strictly forbidden outside of official tournaments. And for those matches, a faculty member must be present. Anyone who breaks this rule faces immediate expulsion from the school. Knowing he could get kicked out, Neil just laughs and admits that being expelled would be a pain. So he grabs his giant axe and calls the whole fight off for now. Before walking off, he tells Louis that their time is coming. With that, the teacher clears everyone out, announcing that their first classes start early tomorrow morning. Clueless, Louis wonders why Neil is so obsessed with fighting him, while Kane points the finger at Faye's thick-headed ways. She snaps back instantly, yelling at him for nearly getting them all expelled. Then she turns to Louis, apologizing. She admits it is her fault because she fought Neil during the exams, and they tied when the clock ran out. Since Neil heard that Faye lost to Louis, he has been absolutely desperate to test the boy's strength himself. Luckily, Louis kept his cool when Neil started throwing insults and provocations earlier. Faye would have felt terrible if Louis had actually been expelled over this. Moments later, Kane pulls Louis aside and points out that they are already the most hated students here. Later, at the academy store, Louis nearly loses his mind when he sees the insane price tags on everything. The clerk tries to pitch him pillows costing everything from silver to actual gold coins. The poor boy starts doing the math, realizing that his hard-earned money won't last a second in this place. Much to his shock, Kane claims that these items aren't actually expensive at all. This is exactly where Louis has to buy all of his daily essentials. Suddenly, Louis understands just how vital every coin is, so he picks the absolute cheapest starter kit available. He is just glad he made some decent cash from his cologne business. He even plans to send most of those funds back to the orphanage to help out. Looking around at all the fancy gear for sale, Louis realizes he needs to find a way to start making more money, and fast. As the girls head back to their dorms, Faye waves goodbye and promises to be there for Louis' ceremony tomorrow morning. Watching them carry those high-end coolers, Louis feels motivated to work harder so he can finally afford luxuries too. Later, inside the dorms, Louis heads to his dorm, praying his new roommate isn't some shady schemer. But just as he reaches the door, he spots a pillow and bedding tossed out into the hall. He peeks inside and finds a student being cornered by a group of arrogant nobles. The bullies are screaming in the kid's face, but the poor guy just stays dead silent. One jerk grabs him by the collar, but Louis steps in, tapping a vital pressure point on the bully's hand. The bully's whole arm goes numb from the sudden shock. As Louis reminds them that fighting on campus is banned, the noble plays the victim, claiming they didn't do a thing. Infuriated by the pain, he tries to throw a desperate punch at Louis. But Louis just taps his palm, forcing the bully's own hand to fly back and smack his lackey right in the face. Louis calmly asks when he ever touched them, leaving the group completely baffled and confused. He then stealthily strikes a pressure point on the bully's foot. The boy's leg spasms, kicking his other friend square in the gut while he struggles to understand what's happening. With one final precise strike from Louis, the bully collapses right onto his pile of groaning friends. The lead brat finally pieces it all together. He realizes Louis is behind the puppet show, but our main character just plays totally innocent. He screams that Louis is controlling his body like a puppet, calling the guy a complete monster. Louis gives him a terrifying glare that makes the kid shiver. Luckily, the quiet student steps in to stop things from escalating. Louis suggests they go talk to the principal if they have any more issues. The bullies scramble away instantly, shouting that he'll pay for this humiliation. Once they're gone, Louis tries to introduce himself to the boy, Kara. He actually caught the name from the tag on the bedding the boy is picking up. Louis tries to start a conversation, but Kara just ignores him and heads straight inside. He isn't even mad, realizing his new roommate is just painfully shy and socially awkward. Louis settles in, hoping tomorrow's big awakening ritual goes off without any massive, world-ending drama. Meanwhile, lurking near the massive statue of the goddess, a mysterious group is busy setting up a deadly trap. Next morning at the temple, the freshmen gather to awaken their magic, staring up at the massive statue of the goddess Gaia. Their instructor begins the tale of how Gaia once created this world for both humans and monsters to live together. But the monsters, they began using their terrifying power to conquer everything from the deep seas to the highest skies. Because of this, a bloody war consumed the world, leaving humanity caught right in the middle of the absolute carnage. Gaia had enough. She granted her divine blessings to the humans who were born without any magic of their own. Suddenly, they could finally master the 4 primal elements of the world. They developed the martial arcane, fought back in epic battles, and eventually rose up as the world's new rulers. The instructor tells the students that today, they will also receive Gaia's blessing and awaken their inner magic. Listening to the grand history, Louis looks skeptical. He notices the instructor conveniently left out any mention of the first hero. Kara notices his reaction, but the instructor suddenly calls out, ordering the entire group to follow him inside. He leads them to special tiles, explaining that those with true talent will feel the elements the moment they sit down. If they feel nothing, the academy has no use for them. He says all this while shooting a sharp, nasty glare straight at Louis. A moment later, he signals the rest of the students to take their seats. Louis definitely caught that look. Now he is wondering why this teacher seems to hate his guts already. With everyone settled, the instructor explains that the 4 elements are this world's foundation. To master them, they must first sharpen their minds to a fine edge. And then, the chant begins. Suddenly, ancient elemental symbols ignite the statue, bathing the entire room in brilliant light. The students gasp as a massive avatar of the goddess manifests right before their very eyes. She floats in the void, surrounded by swirling elemental spheres. Focusing hard, many students finally receive the gift of a single element. Some celebrate their luck, while others grumble that their assigned element totally ruins their future career plans. Suddenly, a blazing vortex erupts around Neil. The crowd goes wild. He just awakened both the earth and fire attributes at once. Everyone starts whispering, is Neil actually some kind of genius for bending 2 different elements to his will? Hyped up, the hothead ignites his flames, laughing as he commands the forces of nature to obey. He shoots a smug look at Louis, declaring that if the guy can't awaken, he's not even a rival. He warns Louis not to disappoint him. Every eye in the room follows suit. They wait for Louis to pull off a miracle, but nothing happens. Not a single element appears near him. Louis is struggling, focusing with every ounce of strength. He feels nothing. Is it because he's an outsider to this world? The thought crosses his mind as he searches within. Then he remembers it, that strange, flickering power he felt back when he was sparring with Cain. Right now, Louis feels a dark corruption tainting his thoughts, but he refuses to break. His will is stronger than any curse. With a roar, he shatters the mental shackles, burning away the fog. Instantly, 4 brilliant colors of light begin to swirl around. The instructor is floored. He specifically rigged Louis's tile with a magic circle designed to completely sever the boy's mind from the outside world. Louis reaches out to grasp the light, but the colors dance away, just out of his reach. He tries again and again to catch them, but he keeps failing. It's frustrating. He can feel the power right there, so why can't he actually touch it? Watching from the shadows, the instructor smirks. In his mind, Louis is making a massive mistake. If he thinks just breaking that mental barrier is enough to awaken, he's dead wrong. The corrupt teacher mentions the confinement circle. He used a magic forbidden orb, because some very powerful people paid a lot of money to see Louis crushed. Since he already took the bribe, there is absolutely no turning back for him. He just waits for the clock to run out so Louis can finally despair. Hours pass. Most students leave, but Louis and Kara are still stuck there in a deep meditative state. The arrogant nobles start mocking Louis, calling him a total letdown. Kara senses something's off, though. He whispers a warning to Louis. There is a hidden trap set right beneath his floor tiles. Wasting no time, Louis smashes the tile apart, revealing the glowing magic forbidden orb hidden directly underneath his feet. He has no idea what this orb is, but Kara shouts for him to hurry as he heads out. Despite his curiosity, Louis steps away from the wreckage and centers his mind once again. And then boom! The remaining students are stunned as 4 distinct colors of light begin to form a massive vortex swirling around Louis. The instructor's jaw drops. How could Louis possibly awaken? This makes no sense. Even a master shouldn't be able to bypass a confinement circle and a magic forbidden orb combined. He tries to interfere, but out of nowhere, someone appears. Principal Aronian steps in and sternly tells the man to stand down. All right, you and I see some confused faces because the crowd missed Louis' awakening. They assume he is just checking on Louis, who everyone knows was struggling to awaken. Whispers of a secret connection fill the air as the instructor watches Aronian leave. He is fuming under his breath because the principal's sudden appearance nearly blew their secret operation wide open. Later that night, he meets Jess and breaks the news that their scheme totally flopped. To keep things quiet, the instructor warns Jess to stay far away for now. All Jess can do is curse Louis for being so incredibly lucky. Back at the temple, Aronian tells Kylie to track Sid and keep outsiders from causing any more trouble. With the obstacles removed, Aronian leaves Louis alone, letting the boy figure out how to control the elements himself. As for Louis, he stares at the glowing lights, realizing they match Kane's old descriptions perfectly. He remembers back when Kane was teaching him about elemental theory. Monsters are born with magic unlike humans who have to undergo a difficult awakening. It is because they have magic crystals inside them, each holding a unique set of different primal powers. This allows those beasts to master multiple elements at once. Humans, however, must be chosen by an element during their specific awakening ritual. Without manipulating the world around them, human magic is essentially impossible. Kane tossed him a crystal while explaining the next steps. He said training your mind and body is vital after the elements recognize you. Louis wondered if the crystals and the elements were the same. But Kane explained that everything in this world is made of elements. Opening his eyes, Louis sees the water element drifting closer and reaches out. This time, the tiny particle stays put. The moment he makes contact with it, a massive wave of ancient power hits him, revealing the very essence of the world through Gaia's divine will. Suddenly, the vortex around Louis spins out of control. Aronian is watching closely and immediately triggers the goddess barrier seal. The goddess then traps Louis inside a barrier made of 4 different elements. Instantly, his hair dye washes away, revealing his true black hair. Luckily, the barrier glows so bright that the other students cannot see what's happening. The confused crowd only cares about one thing. Why is there such a massive magic wave, and why did the principal seal him? Keeping the seal steady, Aronian tells Louis to stay calm and ignore the chaos outside. Louis hears the command and finally finds his center. He looks at the floating elements and sees they are just like science's elementary particles. So, watch this, he tests his theory by shifting their frequency, making the lights explode into symbols. The massive vortex begins to swirl. Now, you and I can see the crowd realizing Louis's aura is way scarier than even Neil's. Seeing that Louis is still in control, Aronian praises him for going way beyond his expectations. Watching the elements dance nearby, Louis realizes that magical essence and elementary particles are identical. Alright, because of this breakthrough, humans might finally wield magic just as easily as monsters. He absorbs the element, noticing that just like tiny particles, they are in constant motion. This means that by syncing their movement with his flow of Kai and breathing, the circulation of those elements becomes much smoother. If that works, Louis could form a magic crystal inside himself, just like Xing techniques. Louis focuses with everything he has until a crystal shape forms in his eye. Instantly, ice erupts everywhere, shattering his containment barrier to pieces. Aronian is absolutely floored by this. He can't help but smile as Louis literally takes flight using wind magic. The other students watching this madness don't stick around, they start running. They scream for help, but the frost is too fast, freezing them solid in seconds. Realizing how dangerous things are getting with Louis's power, Aronian steps in, knowing he has to suppress this wild energy right now. He chants a prayer to the goddess while gripping his sacred emblem tight. A massive wall of flames erupts, clashing head-on to offset Louis's deadly icicles. Now get this, the shockwave is so massive that people in the library all feel it. Once the smoke clears, Aronian wonders what kind of element the boy actually used. Meanwhile, Louis examines his own body, realizing the incredible thing he just did. He fused two elements into one. As he wonders who to tell, he spots Aronian's serious face. Totally confused, Louis stares at the massive wall of fire still standing there. With a simple snap of Aronian's fingers, the entire barrier collapses back into the badge. He asks Louis if he even realizes what he just did. Louis looks around. Seeing the frozen students on the ground, the weight of his mistake finally hits him. Aronian keeps his voice calm as he gives orders to Cock. He is heading back to the office and leaving the cleanup to the poor guy. He tells Louis to follow him, knowing the boy has a ton of questions. At the office, Aronian congratulates him on awakening all 4 of the elemental attributes. Louis then shows him the core of his power. Aronian is seriously impressed by how fluidly the boy handles these elements. He hands Louis a special spellbook from back when he was a student. But there is a catch, the book only helps with wind and earth magic. For fire and water, he'll need to seek out Faye and Miliana. Since they come from prestigious families and know him, they are the best choice. With the plan set, Aronian calls out for Kylie. In a flash, she appears. He introduces her as his most trusted aide. He informs Louis that, from here on out, she will be his personal guardian. Kylie doesn't waste time, asking both of them to move to a different spot. They follow her to a private training ground, reinforced with heavy earth magic walls. To start things off, Kylie asks Louis to show her exactly what he can do. Louis demonstrates, explaining how he speeds up and blends 2 different elements together. The result is a brand new element he simply calls ice. Aronian is completely and utterly stunned. He has never heard of combining elements like this. How did Louis even do it? Kylie feels the freezing chill and grins like a maniac. She wants a closer look. In a heartbeat, she closes the gap and throws a heavy punch right at Louis. Louis parries every strike, countering with blades of pure, frost-chilled ice. Kylie starts losing ground, barely keeping up with his relentless, heavy punches. She almost takes a direct hit, retreating to wonder if Louis really got faster. Suddenly, she realizes the truth. She is actually getting slower, likely from the freezing chill of his ice magic. She blazes up her fire magic, melting away the frost instantly. She calls out to Aronian, asking if anyone has ever fused elements before. He shakes his head, Since the very dawn of magic history, he explains, many legendary geniuses tried to fuse elements together, but not a single one ever succeeded. Most people only master one attribute. Awakening to multiple, that is incredibly rare in their world. Even Murin, the Empire's most powerful saint, a legendary, once-in-a-century genius from the vast eastern region. She wielded 3 elements but still couldn't fuse even 2. She failed too. Aronian explains her body just couldn't take the strain. Normal humans simply aren't built for it. Managing elements requires absolute harmony between a person's mind and their physical body. But look at how Louis pulled it off. He needed insane willpower to guide those elements. Attempting this with multiple attributes usually ends in disaster. The conflicting powers would collide inside, likely killing the user in the process. Watching Louis closely, Kylie realizes his potential might actually rival a saint's. Igniting her flames once more, she challenges Louis to come at her again. She charges straight in. As they clash, Aronian explains that Murin actually had 2 different theories for wielding multiple elements at the same time. The first theory involved getting a dragon-like body to survive the elemental collision, or using high-grade magic crystals to channel the power. Just like the monsters, Louis asks about the results, but Aronian admits it was a total disaster. Every experiment failed so badly that the entire concept was eventually labeled a forbidden taboo. That is why he's stunned. Someone who actually broke that forbidden seal is standing right here. Louis realizes the reason he didn't fail like everyone else was simple. He was circulating the elements through entirely different internal pathways. This keeps them from ever colliding with each other. Kylie snaps him out of it with a kick, telling him not to get cocky. But she knows his secret now. Louis blocks her and admits it. This unique power of his, it is a recipe for major trouble. She agrees. If the world finds out what he can really do, he is dead. There is no telling what they'd do to him. He needs to keep a low profile. He nods, deciding to claim he simply awakened to water, and his ice powers are just an advanced application. Aronian watches with deep curiosity as Louis challenges Kylie to come at him one last time. She strikes with a flaming fist. He counters by conjuring a concentrated ball of water. He applies so much pressure that the water completely snuffs out her fire mid-clash. Both Kylie and Aronian are stunned. Louis just turned water into ice right before their eyes. Aronian can tell that what Louis just did wasn't even traditional magic. Kylie is baffled. Her fire can't melt this ice, and the sphere is actually radiating intense heat. He explains that liquids change form under extreme pressure. He just successfully applied some of his own knowledge. Aronian promises, "All right, you and I are watching Aronian teach Louis how to properly use his powers," promising him full credit. After seeing Louis unleash that massive attack, Kylie wonders why Aronian is still so desperate to protect him. Plus, she's convinced Louis just got lucky. But Aronian mentions that even legendary coincidences are documented in ancient magic texts. He's not about to rule out any possibilities just yet. With her hands tied, Kylie agrees to guard Louis, though she grumbles about him being such a high-maintenance student. She turns away and vanishes instantly using her signature flame magic. Once she's gone, Aronian tells Louis that classes start tomorrow and he should head back to the dorms. Before Louis leaves, Aronian gives him a mental health recovery potion to use. Louis drinks it down and starts the long walk back to his room. He feels incredibly refreshed, so he decides to just meditate until the sun comes up. He steps inside and is shocked to find Kara still wide awake, clearly waiting for him. He approaches Kara and offers his thanks for the rescue earlier that day. When he asks how Kara knew where to find him, Kara simply hands over a trading company card. Looking at the card, Louis finally understands why Kara is so well informed. As Kara turns to leave, Louis asks if helping a commoner like himself will end up making Kara a target for others. Kara just offers a quick thanks for the concern and shuts the door tight. Even if the card isn't useful right now, Louis knows Kara's connections might be vital later on. Next morning, we're at the academy training hall. A total eccentric starts flexing his massive muscles, introducing himself as Derek. He's their physical training instructor, and he's determined to sculpt them all into perfection. The students take one look at him and are instantly creeped out by his intense energy. Louis, however, respects the hustle, knowing a strong body is the foundation of any true martial artist. Derek spots Louis and flash. He blurs right behind him, inspecting the boy's frame with a look of total admiration. He glares at Cain disdainfully, remarking that the standards for noble heirs have really hit rock bottom lately. He steps away and announces it's time for the seniors to show the freshmen how real training is done. Right on cue, the seniors stroll in, mocking the freshmen for being weaklings who lost to both commoners and noble rivals. They're here to prove the massive gap between a mere apprentice and a true fighter. Derek gives the signal. One senior explains that these weights are actually reinforced with heavy earth magic. He takes a seat and effortlessly lifts an entire ton of cold steel. The freshmen are stunned, watching the upperclassmen breeze through exercises that look absolutely impossible. Now it's the freshmen's turn, and they practically lose their souls trying to move the gear. The seniors just laugh and mock them. But they're absolutely floored when Louis lifts 10 tons and destroys the treadmill with insane speed while heavily weighted. He spins so fast that the friction creates a literal tornado in the hall. You and I can see the shock. They suspect drugs, but there's no trace of any magic potion. Suddenly, they notice Neil stepping up to show what he can do as well. Neil casually benches 15 tons, then hits the treadmill while lugging 20 tons on his back. Having made his point, he challenges Louis to a direct competition to finally settle who's the top dog in this class. Louis just declines, reminding him that the goal is self-improvement, and showing off is a total waste of time. The senior. This guy had tried way too hard to look cool, and now he is snapping at Louis for a perceived insult. He screams right in his face, warning Louis not to get arrogant just because he is somewhat strong. Then he demands to know their attributes. When Neil reveals he has two, the senior completely loses it. Neil looks to Louis, who lies and says he only uses water. The senior catches this immediately. He starts mocking Louis, basically calling him trash because he is stuck with such a weak element. Confused, Louis asks what is so funny. Miliana explains that water only has one real attack move, meaning it is mostly used for support and defense. Because of that, everyone looks down on it when compared to the other elements. The bully keeps mocking him, pointing out that history has not seen a single water attribute grandmaster. He tells Louis to just accept being a low-tier support, which really gets under his skin. He double-checks if Master is truly the absolute highest rank a water wielder can ever reach. While the senior keeps talking trash, Cain and Faye finally speak up and tell him to shut his mouth. As the tension rises, Jess talks with Derek about how magic requires a tough body, making endurance training the perfect way to build that up. Students have to take hits on purpose to build up their mental focus and physical durability. So, Jess suggests a friendly match for endurance training. He is determined to prove through brute force just how useless water truly is. Cain warns Louis that Jess is actually the brother of Sheath. He is obviously trying to crush Louis, knowing that water attributes are not meant for protecting the body in a real fight. Prepared, Louis tells Derek that there is no such thing as an attribute being better or worse than another. Amused, Derek asks if Louis is actually going to accept this challenge. Louis agrees, stating he will fight the seniors to prove his point. Cain is naturally worried about him, but Louis keeps him calm. Derek kicks off the bout, informing them that magic is only allowed in the center area before they begin. He adds that dodging any incoming attack is strictly forbidden. This gets Neil fired up, and he is practically burning with energy. He asks for a fight, but the seniors refuse him since he has dual attributes. Instead, one senior steps up to face Louis, planning to teach him a painful lesson. He activates his magic to form earth armor, then leaps at Louis with nothing but murderous intent. Out of nowhere, a fist connects squarely and sends him crashing hard into the dirt. Everyone is stunned. They cannot believe Neil shattered that ultimate earth armor and caused so much damage with a single strike. Seeing this happen, Jess orders the other seniors to swarm Neil, and they immediately charge toward him. This just gets Neil excited. He rips his shirt off and starts tanking their blows head-on. After taking a few hits, he laughs it off as light work, calling them all way too weak. In a flash, he grabs one guy by the leg and swings him like a baton, tossing him aside. The Earth user jumps just in time and yells that Neil's back is wide open for an attack. He lands a solid punch right on Neil's back, convinced he has finally won. But then, total shock. His own armor shatters. He screams in agony as blood spurts out from his broken wrist. Neil just looks back and mocks the attack, calling it nothing more than a mosquito bite. Clutching his shattered fist, the goon realizes Neil focused every ounce of magic into a single, devastating point. He is baffled. How can a freshly awakened kid like Neil control mana on an apprentice level? Before he can think, Neil sends him flying into the wall. Derrick uses the guy as a lesson for the freshmen, telling them to master the basics or end up face down like him. Lewis is clearly shaken by Neil's raw brutality. But there is no time to breathe, as more upperclassmen launch an assault. Faye, Kane, and Miliana jump in, countering the attacks with their own elemental powers. While the others are busy, Louis locks eyes with Jess. All right, time for the main event. Jess is fuming. He can't stand Louis acting like he is the protagonist of this story. So, he bets his pride as the Harry family heir to show Louis what real noble dignity and manners look like. He lunges forward, firing a high-speed wind arrow right at Louis's head. Louis doesn't flinch. He condenses his water into a shield that instantly crystallizes into solid ice. The ice block stops the arrow cold. As it expands, Jess is forced to scramble backward. He looks down at his hand and starts trembling. His skin is completely frozen over. In total shock, Jess asks if this is water magic. Louis confirms it. Ice is just water magic's evolved form. Even Miliana and the rest are stunned. Nobody has ever seen a technique like this before. This just makes Jess even more furious. And he finally agrees with Brian. These freshmen are nothing but a pack of troublemakers. He is ready to pull out his trump card when he spots Neil absolutely wrecking his teammates. He smirks at Neil, who charges in for a kill shot, but Jess slips past him effortlessly, mocking Neil to try and catch him. Neil is seeing red now, but he keeps crashing into nothing every time he swings. Kane eventually has to kick him back, telling the guy to cool his head. Jess evades him again, making a direct beeline for Louis. Neil is right on his heels, trying a Hulk-style ground smash, but Jess leaps away. Louis also clears the blast zone. But in that split second, Neil pivots and launches a massive roundhouse kick from behind. Luckily, Louis reacts just in time, throwing up a wall of ice to block the impact. He calls Jess out for being a shameless coward. So much for that noble talk about pride and honor. Jess just scoffs. In his mind, doing whatever it takes to win is the only right decision. Suddenly, Neil leaps high into the air to crush Jess, nearly taking out Louis too. Louis dodges just in time and sticks the landing. Jess goes for a lethal dropkick on Louis, but Neil swats him away like a fly. Jess hits the dirt, bleeding and gasping for breath. Neil looks down, asking why he can't realize that teamwork is the only way to win. With Jess neutralized, Neil turns his sights on Louis, unleashing a flurry of strikes that Louis barely evades. Derrick is loving the show, calling Neil a natural-born battle genius as he watches. He even wonders if the kid's potential surpasses William. During the barrage, Louis catches Neil's fist and strikes him right in the throat, his one glaring weakness. Neil stumbles back, clutching his neck and gasping for air. Faye screams at Louis for hitting such a dangerous spot. The distraction works, and Neil managed to grab Louis's arm. He tells Louis it is time to feel some pain, delivering a brutal headbutt. He calls Louis an insect, hoping this fight gets even more violent. Louis stays calm, reminding Neil that school rules strictly forbid intentionally hurting other students like this. But since Neil crossed the line, It's time for Louis to get serious. All right, you and I are dropping right into the action as he freezes Neil. Neil just laughs, saying Derek told them to show off their strength without hiding or running. The ice locks Neil down, and Louis asks if he can handle something even tougher. Neil is absolutely livid, steam practically rising. He tells Louis not to ask. That pain, it is intense. Neil ignites his flames, shattering the ice into pieces. He strikes his own arm, claiming this fight is making him stronger. Then, he dares Louis to keep it coming. Back then, Neil was just drinking by the river. When a wolf pack attacked, that was his very first taste of real pain. He grabbed their snouts and ripped them apart with pure brute strength. In that moment, he realized something. Pain isn't just proof of life, it's the secret to getting stronger. In this world, only the strong survive, so he craves more pain. He lunges skyward, shouting Louis's name. They're both the same, he says, monsters absolutely starving for more power. Bringing down those heavy fists. Louis parries the strike and sends him crashing down. Neil tries to reset, but Louis lands a kick right to his face. Somehow Neil stays standing. He is actually begging for more punishment. Faye and Kane are terrified he will get killed, so they prepare to jump in. Neil stops them cold, screaming at Louis that he is far from finished. While dodging, Louis wonders how to end this without breaking school rules. Maybe freezing him solid is the way. He slips the attack, tells Neil to chill out, then hits him with a massive ice tempest. The impact sends Neil flying until he smashes into a giant ice wall. Neil, shouting about the pain, ignites his magic and unleashes a firestorm. His muscles bulge as if he is absorbing every hit, turning that damage into pure, explosive energy. Derek watches, amused, crossing his arms. He is just waiting for the drama to unfold, while Neil struggles to his feet. Suddenly, Kylie appears out of thin air and absolutely floors Neil. She calls him a muscle-headed moron. Derek notices her immediately. He rushes over, acting like a total fanboy. She ignores him, warning that his reckless attitude almost cost a student their life. He whines that she's mean, then insists he would have stepped in if things got truly dangerous. He just wanted their real potential. She just stares. She is here to protect Louis, and she is not happy about it. Before walking off, she tells Derek that Aronian wants him in the office. Derek knows he is in for a lecture, but he is curious. How strong can these freshmen get? He tells Neil to get dressed, promising to let this slide just this once. But if Neil goes wild again, he is losing his credits. Neil's only thinking about two things, failing to tank a hit and being totally broke. So, he decides it is time to hunt monsters for money. Then, the bell rings. He dismisses the seniors while telling the freshmen to grab some rest and potions. He promises to push them way harder than before, warning them not to cower or cry. Kane catches up with Louis and asks him a quick question. He asks if he knows how many freshmen have actually beaten their seniors. Louis draws a blank. He is definitely not a history nerd. Kane tells him it has happened exactly 3 times in the entire history of their school. Even after 100 years of tradition, but here is the kicker. Every time a freshman pulled it off, they went on to become legendary Grand Masters. Louis asks when the last time was. Kane reveals it happened when their fathers enrolled. As Jess and his lackey walk off, the henchman apologizes, already plotting how to handle those freshmen from the shadows. But Jess sees them differently. To him, those two are absolute top-tier geniuses. He gives his follower a quick nod of praise. He tells the boy to relax. There is no need to rush when revenge is inevitable. Genius or not, they are still just common citizens living under the Empire's thumb. And as high-ranking nobles, Jess and his crew hold their entire futures in their hands. Later on, Faye talks with Miliana about Louis and his insane talent for water magic. She is convinced that if Miliana stays close to him, she will definitely get stronger. Miliana admits she cannot copy him. Nobody has ever seen such weird, high-level techniques before. She realizes she needs to expand her own arsenal of water attribute attacks. Faye tells her to take it easy. She is still young after all. But Miliana just steals her resolve, admitting that she has to push herself for the sake of her family. Faye already knew she would say something like that. So she calls out to Louis, claiming Miliana wants to have a word. The crowd gasps. Is this about to be a romantic confession right here? Louis appears a moment later and asks Miliana if she needed something from him. Faye cuts to the chase. She asks if Louis can teach her those water spells. He agrees instantly because that is what friends do. Hearing those words, Miliana warns him that she might cause trouble. Then, she softly asks if he will ever regret being her friend. Louis disagrees. He promises he would never betray a friend. She just nods, hoping she is not dragging him into her mess. Then she bolts. As Faye chases her, Louis realizes that everyone has their own secrets. If trouble starts, he might be the one causing it. Curious, he asks Kane what he knows about her. Kane explains that Miliana is a Royce, the granddaughter of a legendary Grand Master. While her grandmother was still alive, the Royce family was flourishing. But after she died, they lost everything. Kane does not know the full story, so he tells Louis to ask Faye. Louis then asks Kara, who reveals that the Royce family is actually tied to the association itself. Now he is curious, asking for even more details. But he knows he will need to ask Faye or Miliana for the truth. Later, they head to the first magic training ground. Their new instructor, Sid, explains that magic is a blessing from the goddess and the very essence of their world. He plans to show them how to master magic and utilize martial arcane in combat. As he introduces himself, Kane spots Louis sighing and asks why, considering how hyped he seemed for this class. Louis starts complaining, convinced that Sid has a serious grudge against him. Right on cue, Sid appears and snaps at him for chatting during the lecture. He docks a credit immediately, making it clear he is not as lenient as Derek. Keep interrupting, and they will hit 0 credits. He turns back to his lesson. He scolds Louis again, deducting 1 more point on the spot. He tells Louis to learn some proper noble etiquette and start acting like a student. Sid channels his magic, getting ready to unleash a powerful spell. Suddenly, the earth shifts into a massive stone statue. He explains that real combat requires mastering both magic and martial arts together to use arcane arts. Charging his hand with mana, he tells them becoming a true apprentice takes serious work. Step 1, learning how to manifest your mana into a physical weapon. Once they can manifest weapons and cover their bodies in arcane armor, they finally become true fighters. Just like that, his mana condenses into the sharp shape of a sword. He swings it, instructing them to control mana through their very physical movements. You must connect with it mentally and channel it through every single action. Even from a distance, that mana blade slices right through the statue. The students are left speechless, totally impressed. Ending the demo, he announces that everyone will eventually have to attack the statues exactly like that. And get this, the student who deals the most damage earns 5 credits. But first, he orders the class to split into groups based on their elemental attributes. Neil is actually exempted because he possesses rare dual attributes. Sid sends the water attribute students to the side to focus on practicing their arcane armor. Their job is to assist the others with warm-ups later. As Kane leaves his team, the other kids start mocking Louis and Miliana for their weak attributes. Miliana is devastated, stuck practicing support spells while everyone else gets to blast the statues for credits. She really wants to prove her strength to someone very important in her life. But if things continue like this, she will never help that person become a grandmaster. Hearing her, Louis wonders who she is talking about, maybe even someone from the Arcanist Association. He directly asks Miliana what is wrong. She just shakes it off, claiming it is nothing and definitely none of his business. Curiously, he asks why she is so focused on attacking, since water is mostly a support attribute. He points out how vital it is to disrupt enemies and shield your allies. But then, Miliana reveals her dream to become a grandmaster and restore the honor of the Royce family. To achieve that, she believes she must master both attacking and defending equally. She argues the goddess wouldn't create an incomplete attribute, so water must have strong attack spells like the others. Miliana explains her efforts. She tried boosting her aqua blade with potions and even developed multi-hit versions of the spell. But despite all that, she still could not overcome the element's natural lack of firepower. She wonders if a water mage can ever reach Grandmaster. A classmate calls out, ordering her to prep her aqua shield for his turn to warm up. Seconds later, he launches a wind attack directly at her without any warning. She holds firm, blocking it with her water shield. Watching her, Louis starts to realize Miliana is just like he was in his previous life. Years ago, they mocked him for studying martial arts because his severe asthma kept him from even training. Back then, bullies looked down on him, sneering that he should just give up on his impossible dreams and rot. Now he sees her pushing forward, fighting the same uphill battle he once faced. He wonders if he can guide her, much like Cain, toward a brand new martial path. Stepping in, he helps her manifest ice, quickly scaring off the other students who were hovering nearby. He tells Milana he truly believes in the potential of water, then asks her to watch his technique. She blushes at their proximity, asking with wide eyes if he is actually being serious. Ready to prove it, Louis calls out to Sid, asking for a chance to attack the statue himself. Sid warns him, though, failing to leave a scratch will cost him valuable credits. The instructor sneers at Louis, insisting that a kid like him should just stick to basic mana control. He asks Louis if he is really planning to rely on simple ice magic. Louis replies that he has found a much better way to amplify the power of water magic. Hearing that, the other students just laugh, thinking his claims are completely impossible. Even Miliana warns him that these statues are artifacts forged from rare, reinforced magic ore. They are infused with earth magic, meaning a standard water spell won't even leave a mark. She is terrified he will lose his credits, but he just gives her a reassuring pat. He tells her it is fine because he has a plan. Walking to the statue, he grabs some sand. He notes that people here haven't learned the old saying, that the soft can overcome the hard. Holding the sand he scooped up, Louis realizes that with enough pressure and high speed, this sand becomes a lethal projectile. It becomes a weapon capable of slicing through absolutely anything. In a flash, he shreds the statue with multiple bursts of high-pressure water. The students stare, wondering if he missed, until the statue suddenly falls apart in pieces. Even Sid is stunned to see a reinforced artifact sliced up like a piece of sashimi. Louis simply calls it the true power of water magic. Later, as everyone heads to the dorms, Cain mocks Sid, telling Louis and Kara how the man's face went pale after that insane display. After handing Louis those 5 credits, Sid bolted out the door the second the class was over. Louis just shrugs, saying he was too focused on his training to even notice Sid's expression. Cain suggests they tell Faye all about the water magic Louis used. She has been working tirelessly to find a path for Miliana, even buying expensive recovery options. He reveals that Faye is renting a private training room for extra practice, which is a perfect chance for Louis. Kara casually notes how the training room costs 30 silver coins, while the mental recovery magic is a staggering 300 gold coins. This completely shocks Louis, who cannot believe how expensive that is. So he asks Kara for a favor, reminding him that their training mission starts in just a few days. On the big day, Derek looks at the students, praising them for how much their stats improved. So, he announces they are starting academy training missions, calling it their duty and their best chance to grow stronger. Since their meeting spot is right on the edge of the Great Forest, Derek explains that the academy borders this forest, a dangerous territory once home to some truly powerful monsters. Today, it basically just marks the boundary between different nations. Derek warns the group that deadly monsters still haunt these woods. Naturally, the deeper you venture toward the center, the more terrifying and powerful those beasts become. But hey, the outskirts, those are supposed to be much safer. See, the academy was actually built here as a defensive line. It protects the empire from forest threats, which is where the students come in. They're sent on periodic missions to keep the monster population in check. Any magic crystals they scavenge out there, pure profit. They can trade them for credits and rewards later, with a massive bonus for the top looter. But if they bite off more than they can chew and need a rescue, that's a credit penalty. Neil is already fired up, thinking this is his big moment to finally go wild. Meanwhile, Louis tells Faye he wants to use this real-world combat. To sharpen Miliana's skills, nothing brings out a person's true potential like a life-or-death fight. He suggests they form a 5-man squad. Why? Efficiency, of course. Solid teamwork is way better than wasting money on renting some dusty training room. When Faye asks Miliana what she thinks, she's all in. Derrick decides they'll head out first, pairing them up with some upperclassmen. It's a perfect chance to soak up some veteran experience while they're out in the field. Too bad for Louis, though. Their mentors are actually Jess and his crew. They immediately start lecturing the rookies about how lethal the woods are, warning them to keep their eyes peeled if they want to survive. Louis just shrugs it off. After all, you only truly grow when you face real danger. Jess is fuming. He calls Louis a cocky little brat and storms off, telling his team not to lift a finger if the rookies get in trouble. Kane gives Louis the lowdown. Jess and his squad can't mess with them directly because the instructors are always keeping a close watch. So instead, Jess and his goons will likely try to lure them into some high-level monster territory. Louis just smells a whole lot of profit. He's down for the challenge, leaving Kane shaking his head. Soon, they're deep under the forest canopy. Louis starts asking questions when he realizes they've wandered straight into behemoth territory. He wonders if any of those massive beasts are still roaming around. But Kane clarifies that the Saints already wiped every last one of them out. He explains that they'll only run into basic fighter class monsters this far out. Then he asks Louis if he's actually ready to fight them. One senior scoffs, reminding them that fighter class beasts usually require an entire squad to handle. He thinks these freshmen are just daydreaming if they think they can take one down all by themselves. Right then, a massive fighter class Grand Bear blocks their path. The senior immediately bolts up a tree, casually telling the kids he'll just watch them handle it. Looking closer, he realizes this bear is actually a freakishly strong specimen for its rank. On Louis' mark, everyone snaps into position. The bear roars and they charge in, narrowly dodging those lethal claws. Kane uses his wind magic to dance around those razor-sharp slices. Now he attacks the bear with twin blades, using gravity as his pure momentum. But it does 0 damage. The bear swipes back, but Kane dodges just in time. And before it can strike again, Kara blasts it with flames. Now the beast is furious. Miliana quickly binds it with water magic, then hurls it deep into the forest. Louis is stunned and asks Faye about the move. It is Miliana's very own original technique. A lethal combination of high-level water magic and jujitsu. Impressed by her skill, Louis dashes right under the bear, refusing to be left behind by her. Then he sends the bear flying high into the air. He compresses water magic and fires it at the beast like a deadly energy blast. It hits home immediately, and the massive monster drops stone dead. The entire party is speechless. He ended it in one shot when their own attacks barely scratched it. Louis then explains that his secret weapon was steam. To get the power needed to drop that bear, he compressed heated water until it was ready to detonate upon its final release. The resulting steam burns targets and can even wreck their ability to breathe properly. He explains that tough skin cannot block internal damage. Miliana watches and wonders if she could perform it. Louis hands her some special rings, explaining that he made a request. He had Kara grab them from his company so she could finally use other elements too. Watching Sid gave him the idea. Now he can use all his multiple attributes out in the open. As Miliana thanks him and puts on the ring, a massive fireball suddenly streaks toward her. The attack barely misses, but it completely vaporizes the bear's corpse. The senior watching from the sidelines trembles as he sees the bear get charred instantly. Louis warns them, something's coming. Get ready, because multiple Blaze Kongs are heading their way, and the senior is losing his mind. Hiding nearby, Kane calls these monsters total bad news. Lewis has no clue what they are, so he asks Kane for the details. Kane explains that these things should never be this close to the academy grounds. He can't believe a whole pack of them actually showed their faces here. The Blaze Kongs feast on the bear's remains, while the others watch in pure terror. Kane suspects other students are in serious danger. He predicted they might run into multiple Blaze Kongs, just as he said they would. All over the forest, students are running for their lives from these massive beasts. Derrick is working overtime just to rescue all the fallen students. Neil, however, isn't backing down. He just cracks his knuckles, getting ready to throw down with a Blaze Kong. Sid also appears and tells the students to run while he handles the situation himself. Lewis can't figure out why these monsters are showing up at the forest edge. But suddenly, a Blaze Kong appears right behind poor Brian. Brian instinctively tries to shield himself with a thick earth armor. The Kong slams him into the dirt so hard his armor shatters completely. He is left trembling in intense pain. The monster goes to crush him, but then, out of nowhere, Louis flies in with a massive dropkick, sending the monster crashing into the dirt. Lewis orders Kara and Miliana to take the seniors and run, while the rest stay back to fight the monster with him. Miliana prays for their safe return, and they promise to catch up very soon. But the monster is already back up, charging a massive flame cannon. Louis yells for them to dodge, and they leap in different directions. They realize they have to team up. Kane fires a wind arrow, using the boost to launch himself at the Blaze Kong. The monster tries to grab him, but Kane slashes its arm, making it roar in pain, while Faye slams a flaming strike onto its head to ground it. Kane calls her a muscle brain, since she clearly is not planning on stopping there. Instead, she triggers her secret moon lens, unleashing a brutal flurry of strikes on the beast. She spots the monster's core and fires off her lance with deadly precision. The resulting explosion shatters the core and completely vaporizes the monster in a massive blast. Faye strikes a pose after the kill, but Kane warns her to keep her guard up. And right behind her, another Blaze Kong appears and fires its flame cannon, but Louis blocks it with an ice shield. He instantly freezes the ground, trapping the massive monster inside a giant block of solid ice. Faye thanks Louis for the save, shocked that the ape is still alive inside that ice. Suddenly, it shatters the ice with a flame blast, and Louis shoves Faye out of harm's way. They watch in total shock as the monster's wounds begin to close at high speed. Louis gets an eerie feeling, noting it is just like the vibe he got from Neil. Neil, on the other hand, he is busy trading blows with a giant ape, healing from his injuries almost instantly. Derrick watches the monsters charge, calling it a hassle because they just keep regenerating. He fears for the students, while Louis and his group form a tight defensive unit. As the monsters close in, Louis realizes that things are starting to look really bad. Near the forest outskirts, Kara and Miliana are already knocked out by the beasts. Once the creatures leave, Brian wakes up with a smirk, saying preparations are finally complete. He plans to use these defective monsters to eliminate Louis for good. Suddenly, the monsters around Louis activate arcane armor. Kane is stunned as the group is forced to scatter. Louis sees every creature's eyes are locked onto him. He wonders why he's the only one being targeted. To make matters worse, all the Blaze Kongs charge their flame cannons to massive sizes and fire them at Louis at once. His teammates scream his name. The explosion rocks the entire forest, and Brian declares the mission a total success. Derrick and Neil sense the blast and wonder what happened, as a blue light shines through the smoke. Kane. He and Faye see the light source and realize Louis has covered himself in a massive water barrier. Shocked by his perfect control, Faye tells Kane that only a master could pull this off, and Kane realizes Louis has been hiding his true power. Louis starts accelerating the mono-circulation within his body. He is using it to temporarily reach master-level mana control. But the strain is too much, and Louis will soon hit his physical limit. He has to end this fight as quickly as he possibly can. Louis creates a ball of water. He compresses the sphere before firing a massive stream at the apes and freezing the ground beneath them. Louis follows up by launching himself forward using ice. This high-speed movement allows him to charge toward one of the apes in an instant. He lands a punch on the beast, and ice begins erupting from the impact. All right, watch as the monster dies. Another beast lunges at his back, but Louis is ready. Ice erupts, launching him away from the danger. The monster slams the earth, realizing too late that its arm is frozen solid. Now, Louis weaves through their ranks like a ghost, forming 8 trigrams before leaping up to rain down relentless palm strikes on his enemies. Frozen in place and helpless, the ice-encased monsters simply shatter into a million jagged pieces. As Brian loses control of his apes, a migraine hits hard, confirming his fears. Meanwhile, Faye and Kane are jaw-dropped, watching Louis wipe out the entire Blaze Kong pack in seconds. Victory is his. Louis feels a new level of mastery over his wind and mana. Kane rushes over with massive praise, thrilled by the display of power. But Faye stays sharp. They need to move fast before another deadly ambush finds them. Then a surprise. Louis tells them to relax because the academy teachers have finally arrived. As the staff appears, Brian fumes, punching his own chest while muttering that Louis just got lucky this time around. Minutes later, Aronian enters the scene, looking at the field of fallen, unconscious students. He finds our trio and asks if everyone made it out alive. Kane and Faye explain that Louis soloed multiple masterclass Blaze Kings. Without him, they were dead. It would have been a total slaughter. Aronian is intrigued, and Louis fuels that fire by admitting something felt completely wrong. He presents Aronian with a frozen chunk of the mutated monster. Aronian orders them back to the academy while the professionals take over the investigation. That night at the dorm shop, the owner is jealous of Louis's massive credit haul from the latest mission. Intrigued, she warns him about the mental recovery potions. Using too many of these will wreck his body. Louis knows the risks, but then Kylie appears, asking for a private word. Stepping outside, she reveals the findings the principal discovered from the alchemy lab. The corpses showed clear traces of magic drugs and artificial modifications used on them. His gut feeling was right. You and I know this was no accident. Someone triggered this entire incident. Kylie explains that the principal suspects enemy spies, probing their defenses because certain powerful people are getting very impatient lately. The king is getting older, Murren is aging, and a successor hasn't been officially named yet. It is the perfect window for rivals to eliminate competition and seize control over the next generation of supporters. With the Academy being the Northern Empire's backbone, its stance is everything. Every faction wants to see where they stand, which is exactly why they are probing them like this. Louis listens, but he remembers the monsters targeting him specifically. This wasn't about some succession struggle. Kylie taps him, promising to keep digging on her end and help him with whatever he needs. Before leaving, she tells him to keep growing and meet the principal's high expectations. Louis downs a potion, swearing to himself that he will reach new heights of power. He heads off to meet his friends. There is no more time to waste. Elsewhere, Brian meets his father. Things just got serious. Prince Vaughn arrives, reporting that, while the modified monsters gained power in close range, the results were honestly quite disappointing for everyone. He explains that the corpses had to be disposed of through self-destruction. However, the Academy managed to recover some of the remains anyway. He is terrified of what happens if Principal Aronian catches them in the act. His father reminds him those test subjects were prepared by the Born Empire. If Aronian catches on to that, there is absolutely nothing they can do. More importantly, he looks at Louis's photo, calling him the child of the curse. He suspected it for a while, but confirming that terrifying presence changed everything for him. He believes the principal is actively helping hide Louis's true identity. Brian gets furious, calling Louis a massive hindrance to their entire plan. His father burns the photo, asking Brian if he steps around insects when he walks. Brian snaps back, reminding his father that Lewis is the monster destined for destruction. As he tries to finish his thought, the old man cuts him off, claiming Lewis isn't someone worth fearing. He orders Brian to leak intel about Louis to the association's upper ranks. Brian confirms he's talking about the Arcanist Association. His dad plans to use those goddess advocates to get rid of Lewis for good. After all, killing a child of the curse is literally part of their job. The father's golden rule is to solve messy problems without getting his hands dirty. Now, let's head to the training grounds, where Louis is meditating as Cain attacks. He dodges every slash effortlessly, like he can read them from a mile away. Realizing he can't touch him, Cain quickly tags in Faye. She fires a flame arrow, but Louis instantly throws up an ice barrier to counter. After the explosion, he leaps back, sensing yet another strike coming his way. He stomps his foot, manifesting ice to block the hidden threat. Boom, a massive explosion rocks the area. Faye and Cain think they've won, but Miliana warns them it's way too early. She knows Louis has likely seen through their entire strategy already. Louis walks out from the dust, complimenting them on their impressive teamwork. He praises Cain's footwork, telling him he's mastered those hit-and-run tactics. He notices how Faye boosted her spear power by adapting their unarmed moves. And finally, Miliana used mud to hide Kara's item. He tells them he only spotted the trap thanks to his cold senses. Without those senses, he would have been blown away in an instant. Cain gets frustrated. They went all out and still couldn't land a scratch. He admits they just can't catch him. Faye is amazed Louis can track them perfectly using chi. He downplays it, explaining it is simply a technique that involves the circulation of mind and mana. He says he is still researching the method and promises to teach them next time. Kara hands him a recovery potion, as Louis takes a massive gulp. Kara suddenly blurts out that Louis acts like he is from another world entirely. This makes him nearly choke. He spits it out, shocked, and asks Kara why she would even think that. Kara explains her reasoning. Louis is just too open with his secrets. Most people would keep those skills in the family, but he just shares them. Louis tries to play it cool, mentioning his whole family tree is just. He doesn't go along since he's just a commoner. Besides, they all learn from each other anyway. That high society world just doesn't apply to him. It's better if they all get stronger together. Faye. She kills the sappy mood by reminding them to rest. Martial arts class starts early tomorrow morning. She also warns Louis not to sneak off and train alone. She hates it when anyone tries to secretly get ahead of the rest. With that, they bid Louis goodbye. Right after they leave, Louis checks his recovery potions. He's nearly out and needs to trade. He's about to down a sample when Kylie suddenly appears right there and stops him in his tracks. She asks what on earth he's doing, since he already took one the day before. She warns him that taking too many mental recovery potions will turn his brain into mush. Louis looks at the potion and then remembers his vow to become a grandmaster and win the orphanage back from the association at all costs. He remembers the struggle, everything he's endured to get here, and the massive challenges waiting for him in the future. He tells Kylie he has things to do. To reach his goals, he must get stronger. He promises her he'll be careful not to overdo it. So he's fine. Now get this, Louis knows these potions double his training time. He doesn't have time to wait. He downs the potion. As Kylie asks if he's sure, something dark and ominous starts to happen. A red, terrifying aura reeks out of Louis's body, so she immediately summons her battle armor and prepares for a real fight. Louis opens his eyes and sees her on guard. He fears he's done something incredibly weird. But then he notices his mana is suddenly flowing much smoother than before. Kylie tries to dismiss the strange event. But then she looks at the box. It's full of empty glasses, and she completely loses it. She freaks out, asking if he drank them all alone. Left with no choice, he has to confess. He sheepishly admits it, and the records confirm it. This is his 8th time swapping for potions this month. Pissed, she estimates that Louis has been chugging at least 2 potions every single day. Louis argues it's the only way. If he wants to be a grandmaster quickly, he needs this. Plus, his body hasn't shown any issues. Kylie screams that grandmaster rank isn't easy. He doesn't need drugs, he needs the basic training. She's sure that even if he can't feel it, his internal organs are a total wreck. That weird sensation from earlier still worries her. She plans to report this to Aronian. Without wasting time, she grabs him and drags him out of the training room. They head to the facilities for a magic checkup to see if his body is actually falling apart. At the principal's office, Aronian takes a blood sample to watch how it reacts with the mental recovery potions. But strangely enough, he doesn't see a single sign of damage or internal strain. Instead, the blood looks more active than before. Kylie objects, informing him that Louis has been spacing out and acting very abnormally. And just a moment ago, she felt a chilling, killing intent from him. Aronian listens, but notes that Louis's mana has actually increased. It makes you wonder, did the potion actually cause a rare enlightenment? He can't help but wonder, is Louis's strange reaction just part of being a cursed child? Aronian watches Louis closely. See, in this world, the price of mana is a divine rule from the goddess. No human or monster should ever bypass it. He brushes it off for now. There's so much they don't know, so why rush to conclusions? Kylie's worried. She feels something is wrong with Louis's body. But Aronian simply walks. He notes that alchemy is still a new frontier. Honestly, they still have no clue how potions really affect the body. Plus, Louis's condition makes it complicated. Meanwhile, Kylie wonders if he's hiding even more secrets. Aronian studies the vials. Current alchemy is just mixing raw materials together. That's exactly why components clash. The elements inside just aren't meant to play nice with each other. However, if they purify the drug and strip the junk away, they might finally find the problematic ingredient. He shares his theory out loud. By the next morning, they've gathered massive equipment. Aronian's influence is seriously impressive. Kylie is confused by the bottles. Usually, they don't even use those while brewing. Louis just smiles, he'll show her soon. He dives right in. Minutes later, absolute silence. Aronian is floored. Louis actually extracted every single ingredient from the potion, one by one. Aronian inspects the result. He wants Louis as his apprentice. With talent like this, he'll surpass even the great Murin. Louis accepts. Aronian is thrilled, even promising him double the points for today. Kylie. She's cautious. Does this guy even have a single weak point? Later, Louis does some research. Potions come from plants, and plants need earth and water. Earth and water, the symbols of life. Suddenly, the room glows. Aronian and Kylie can only watch in shock. Aronian calls it true enlightenment. They watch as Louis manifests plants just by thinking. Aronian calls it the power of creation. Louis explains it simply, fertile soil meets water and life sprouts. He calls it wood. Curious, Kylie reaches out, but the plant snaps at her, and suddenly a whole swarm attacks. She panics. She torches them with fire, leaving the remaining plants absolutely terrified. She's stunned that Louis can use them to fight. His growth is just terrifyingly fast. But wait, there's more. Louis demonstrates wood's greatest strength, healing magic. Aronian's mind is blown. The secret behind recovery potions might be this wood attribute power. Louis nods. It's all about the elements. Aronian is convinced. He'll provide every material Louis needs. Louis thanks him. But Aronian stops him. He'll be the one brewing. Aronian warns that strength is just one factor here. To change fate, he needs more than power. Later that night, you and I follow Louis as he heads to the cavern to grow some plants. Aronian is seriously impressed. He finds it hilarious, admitting that no matter how often he sees it, watching rare plants grow that fast is just plain insane. Louis explains that for these rare breeds, the mana cost is massive, and he has officially hit his limit for the day. Aronian nods. In their world, power always comes with a heavy price tag. Looking at the growth, he tells Louis that compared to most, his price is actually pretty cheap. He realizes Louis didn't just clean up the potions to stop those nasty side effects. but he used wood magic to craft entirely new concoctions. He gives it up for Louis, calling him the only one capable of this. Louis checks out the special gear and potions he has just whipped up. Then Aronian drops a truth bomb. If he wants a shortcut to power, he needs a real fight. So he offers to be Louis' sparring partner. And Louis is all in. He downs his potions, tells Aronian to go all out, and charges right in. Boom, the sheer force of their impact triggers a massive explosion. Kylie watches from the sidelines, calling Louis a total monster as the dust finally settles later. While showering, Louis thinks back on the fight. Aronian didn't hold back at all. Without those secret potions, he would have been done. He would have been stuck in a hospital bed for a month. Suddenly, he spots Kara staring intensely at a patch of spilled potion. He plays it cool, lying that it's just something he got from the principal. It was the cover story Aronian suggested to make sure nobody got suspicious. But Kara isn't buying it. He walks up and flat out accuses Louis of brewing it. Louis tries to play dumb, but eventually he has to cave in. He asks how he knew, and Kara simply explains that the principal is way too old-fashioned for stuff like this. Louis has to admit this guy sees through everything. He tells Kara to keep it quiet, but the mute boy just pulls a contract from his shirt with some seriously legendary terms. Through some cryptic signs, Louis realizes that letting this company handle the sales is the perfect play. This way, nobody ever finds out who the real creator is. Kara sets up a deal to split the profits while keeping Louis' name out of the spotlight. Internally, Louis agrees, staying in the shadows is much safer. But he has conditions. First, he wants to avoid any unnecessary heat or drama. They'll weaken the potion's power before selling any. Second, the company has to send massive support to the Rashira orphanage. Kara snatches the paper and signs it, and just like that, we have ourselves a deal. Impressed, Louis shakes his hand and gives his new partner some advice he thinks will help the company grow huge. After laying it all out, he heads back, promising to have the potions ready by tomorrow morning before wishing Kara a good night. Once Louis is finally out of sight, Kara lets his hair down, and wait, he looks like a gorgeous girl. A few minutes later, 2 birds fly in and shift into beastkin, waiting for Kara to finish in the bathroom. As soon as she sees him, one of them tries to pounce on Kara. But he gives her a sharp whack on the head, sending the beastkin crashing to the floor. The lady grumbles about the hit, especially after all the work she did to sneak inside the dorm. Then she starts begging for a little bit of cuddle time. The others apologize, knowing we have to keep this brief so nobody catches them in the dorm. The towel slips, revealing her body. You and I can see she was a lady all along. She hands them a scroll, and they lose it. They think she's gone crazy for backing Louis so hard lately. Those other bird folk imagine the massive payday. Their trading firm will definitely be the best around if this plan of hers actually succeeds. He calls her a total genius. But she reveals it was actually Louis who dreamed up the whole plan. Stunned, they can't believe someone that young could dream up something so massive and complex. Kara just tells them Louis has more potential than any of them realize. They're still worried Louis might flip and back a completely different heir to the throne. So Kara asks for a specific favor from the group, which is to put the Rashira orphanage under her total control. Hearing Louis' conditions, they have to admit it, the kid is way too kind. With business finished, Kara sends them off, and they fly straight back to their secret home base. Staring out the window, she realizes midterms are coming. It is time to advance her grand plan and move things along. For this to work, she needs Louis to show her exactly where his potential ends. A few days later, midterms begin. This is where it gets wild. Derrick addresses the students. He wants to see exactly how much they've grown since the start. First up, the dreaded corridor of traps. They must face endless monsters and traps, but using martial arcane is strictly forbidden here. He notes that in the Academy's entire history, not a single person has finished it perfectly. Faye gives it a shot, fails, and walks away with a score of 300 points. Kane hits 320, Miliana 250, and Kara lands a solid 289. Neil fails as well, ending up with a total score of 325. Disappointed, Derek lays into them for their pathetic performance. Promising to push them even harder next term, another teacher asks how they are actually doing. And Derek admits they're decent, their foundations are finally starting to set. He's taken a liking to Louis, and the examiner notices Aronian is watching the boy too. The man thinks 500 points would be a legendary score for a student. But Derek disagrees. He knows Louis is much stronger than that. He's betting Louis will smash through 600 points today. The loser buys a 10-year bottle of booze. The deal is officially on. Meanwhile, others talk trash about Louis, sure he'll fail since even the high-ranking nobles flopped the test. Just then, Louis enters the room, and a barrage of beams fires his way. He triggers the void algorithm instantly, scanning the room to detect the safest possible path to take. Pumping his muscles, he sprints down the path to evade every single beam. Then he leaps toward safety. Mid-run, the floor vanishes. He boosts himself in midair to clear the pit, but right after he lands on solid ground, a giant blob drops down. He dodges and realizes a slime monster is the next opponent he has to face. The beast spits multiple slimes at Louis, but he bats them into another room, crushing them all like insects. No time to breathe. Cannons start blasting directly at his position. Then jet slimes home in from the opposite direction. He dives out of the way, and the attacks clash into each other with a bang. Louis realizes he's processing a massive amount of data. But no matter the complexity, as long as he sees the core, he's unstoppable. He finally finds the answer. With his calculations complete, he lands in a safe zone and spots the perfect path to avoid the barges. He starts moving, weaving through the chaos like he's actually reading the future. This leaves the teacher speechless. He's genuinely wondering if Louis somehow memorized the entire course beforehand. Just by watching him, the man realizes Louis isn't just dodging. He's actively dismantling every monster and trap while staying on the move. Derek smirks, telling him he hasn't seen anything yet. He's betting that Louis might actually shatter the record today. Louis keeps pushing, dancing around every attack as if this deadly test is just a morning jog. When he tries to parry one strike, it shifts away. Louis realizes just how insanely fast these things are. The attack transforms into deadly echobats. Watching the creatures, the teacher calls them the most agile monsters on Earth. He figures that regardless of talent, Louis has hit a wall. He seriously doubts Louis can break the record using nothing but his physical stats. Louis, however, just smiles. He slams his foot down, launching debris into the air and weaving it together with a monochain. He fires the stones at the bats. Some smash right through them, while others scatter the swarm. Then he jumps in, physically whacking the monsters out of the sky with pure precision. The examiner can't believe it. Louis is racking up massive points by doing exactly what seemed impossible. With the trial finished, Louis walks out with an insane 999 points, leaving every student there in total shock. He's officially rank 1. This absolutely infuriates the nobles. Seeing him dominate like that makes them vow to crush him during the upcoming practicals. The examiner is stunned. A perfect score, a broken record, it's completely unheard of. Derek just laughs, reminding him to have that bottle of booze ready for the break. The man fumes, muttering about how much he hates losing a bet. His friends rush over, asking how on earth he evaded every single trap without using a drop of magic. Faye is impressed, but she still vows to settle things in a real one-on-one duel someday. Then there's Neil. He just walks past Louis in total silence. This catches Kane's eye. He wonders if Neil finally understands the massive power gap between them. But Louis senses something darker. He can feel the demonic blood boiling inside of Neil. Derek finally wraps up the technicals and announces it's time for the real deal, the practical combat test. He tells everyone to draw their lots and gives them the green light to go all out. He knows a lot of them have been itching to finally trade blows with each other. Jess speaks up, grinning. He can't wait to see his match so he can give the juniors a little lesson. He reaches into the lottery box, and his magical ring pulls a specific card. He thinks Louis is a pain and plans to jump him once he's tired from earlier fights. Shortly after, Louis and his crew draw their lots, realizing they've all been placed in different brackets. That means they won't have to face each other until the very final rounds. Faye warns Kane that he won't even reach the finals unless he manages to beat her first. Kane is annoyed, but he's more curious about who Louis is grouped with. Miliana pipes up, revealing she's in with Louis. If they keep winning, a showdown is inevitable. Looking at her bracket, Miliana sees she's surrounded by high-level seniors. As the upperclassmen glare them down with pure malice, Louis vows to give this fight everything he's got. He gives Miliana some quick last-minute advice. Meanwhile, Neil is looking confident. He smirks at his matchup, while Jess orders his men to exhaust Louis at any cost. Even if it kills them, once students draw lots, Derrick sets up the tournament brackets. Now, everyone gets to see their opponents for the first round. Kane and Faye, they are fighting each other. Miliana faces a senior, while Neil goes up against Louis in round 1. With the names announced, Derrick signals the start. Regulations, then download and filter again, according to the content theme. We have image files like this. I guarantee that these images are taken from YouTube's system Google's system, and comply with Section 107, that is Google's Fair Use Content Reuse Law. I have researched and searched for all this content. Now I will make about the process that I create a video to publish on YouTube. The main software we use is CapCut. In the part with CapCut software first,